Lion Asteri was supposed to be the next heir of the most powerful mage family in the Empire, but after failing to awaken his mana 3 times, everyone believed he had become nothing more than a useless disappointment. Ever since waking from a month-long coma, his behavior became even stranger. Instead of training magic, he spent every single day running into the forest, digging through the ground and collecting random herbs. To everyone around him, the young master had completely lost his mind, but they had no idea the real lion was already gone. Inside his body now was Baek Yi-hyun, a former Korean office worker, who mysteriously woke up inside the world of his favorite game. The original owner's memories helped him blend in, but one thing made this world completely different for him: a hidden system. Every herb he collected rewarded him with achievements, rare items, and valuable coins. While everyone mocked him for wasting his time, Lion knew he was quietly building his own future. Since he had no mana, he also knew the Asteri family would eventually abandon him. Instead of fighting for a place that would never accept him, he decided to earn enough money through the system and leave before that day arrived. While searching the forest, Lion suddenly noticed a mysterious blue glow hiding inside the bushes. It turned out to be an incredibly rare 3-star herb. Excited, he asked Sylvia if she could see the glowing aura, but she only saw an ordinary herb. At that moment, Lion realized he was the only person capable of seeing the true value of these magical plants. Before he could continue searching, Sylvia delivered an order from the family patriarch, Patrick Asteri. The ruthless head of the family wanted to see him immediately. Instead of rushing over, Lion came up with another plan. He asked Sylvia to tell Patrick that he would arrive later because he had something important to finish first. Meanwhile, Patrick learned that his grandson had spent an entire month wandering through forests collecting herbs instead of practicing magic. Already disappointed by Lion's repeated mana failures, his patience finally snapped. When Sylvia informed him that Lion was making him wait, Patrick exploded with rage. He even threatened to destroy the entire forest if Lion refused to appear immediately. Using a magical orb, Patrick watched Lion calmly picking herbs as if nothing had happened, while his anger continued to grow. Meanwhile, Lion enters a hidden laboratory and is amazed by its collection of top-tier alchemy equipment. Realizing how valuable everything is, he decides to test whether the game's skill system works the same in this world. After reviewing his alchemy skills, he concludes that mastery increases through constant practice, so he sets a goal of crafting and drinking 100 basic healing potions. Using the lab's equipment, Lion successfully brews his first potion with extraction magic. After drinking it, his health recovers, an alchemy achievement begins progressing, and his theory is confirmed. Determined to level up, he spends hours creating and consuming potion after potion. Although exhaustion and a full stomach make the task unbearable, he forces himself to finish the final vial. His effort pays off as he unlocks a new achievement and reaches Apprentice Alchemist level 4. With new recipes available, Lion begins brewing a stronger potion. While gathering herbs earlier, he had already decided that the perfect gift for his grandfather would not be a healing potion, since powerful mages can recover physically with mana. Instead, he creates a rare potion that relieves mental fatigue, knowing the overworked patriarch suffers from constant stress. As the refreshing brew is completed, Lion recalls that this potion was considered worthless in the original game, but in reality it has immense value. After bottling it, the system reveals it is a high-grade 2-star potion that restores the drinker's happiest memories. Even its fragrance clears his mind before he tastes it, making it the perfect gift. The system then announces that creating such a potion should have been impossible at his current level. As a reward, Lion unlocks the ability to form a magic circle, along with a special talent that grants extraordinary control over mana. Magical energy surges through his body, finally awakening his long-awaited mana. Overjoyed, he bursts into uncontrollable laughter. Outside the laboratory, his brother overhears the laughter, assumes Lion has truly lost his mind, and quietly leaves, pleased that his plan is finally coming together and believing his future escape will now be easier. Lion relaxes until he suddenly remembers that he has kept his feared grandfather, the Asteri patriarch, waiting for their meeting. Meanwhile, Patrick waits impatiently as Lion continues to keep him waiting. Gazing out the window, the old patriarch recalls his days as a legendary warrior and hero whose power and influence could have built an entire nation. Though he hides it, his frustration comes from concern. After Lion survived 3 devastating mana shocks, Patrick has accepted that his grandson may never awaken magic and only wishes for him to live the rest of his life peacefully. Sylvia notices his concern and reveals that Lion seemed genuinely happy while working in the laboratory. Lion finally arrives, apologizing for being late. He explains that the recent incident forced him to accept his lack of magical talent and realize he could no longer cling to false hopes. Instead, he devoted himself to alchemy so he could still honor the Asteri name. As proof, he presents Patrick with a special potion, made to relieve the mental fatigue caused by endless responsibilities. Patrick is initially suspicious, but as he realizes his grandson spent all that time creating the gift solely for him, his heart softens. Though embarrassed by the sincere gesture, he dismisses Lion with his usual stern attitude. After Lion leaves, Sylvia teases Patrick before leaving him alone with the potion. Ignoring Sylvia's suggestion to analyze it first, Patrick chooses to accept the gift as it is. Impressed by the potion's exceptional craftsmanship, he drinks it despite believing it will have little effect on someone of his level. The potion works immediately. A calming magical breeze surrounds him as waves of peace wash away his mental exhaustion. Warm memories of his past return, and he falls into the deepest, most comforting sleep he has experienced in years. When he awakens, his long-standing headache has completely disappeared, and he feels refreshed and lighter than ever. Smiling to himself, Patrick decides he can no longer give up on Lion and vows to find a way to cure his grandson's mana shocks. Elsewhere in the mansion, servants spread rumors that Lion's gift was actually a farewell present because he is supposedly close to death. One servant even mocks him for digging his own grave in the garden. Before the gossip can continue, Sylvia suddenly appears, terrifying everyone. As the servants scramble to flee, another maid complains that workers have begun resigning because of the rumors. Sylvia calmly demands to hear the entire story, leaving everyone frozen in fear. Luxurious carriage arrives at the Asteri estate, as Patrick asks Sylvia whether anything unusual happened during her absence. She hides the truth, claiming it was only a personal matter, while the servants responsible for spreading rumors are quietly expelled from the mansion. Still thinking about Lion's gift, Patrick asks Sylvia to examine the empty vial using her witch's eye ability. The analysis shocks her. The potion is far too sophisticated for someone like Lion to have created, leading her to wonder if it resembles the legendary hero's potion. She recalls the ancient hero who defeated the demon race and possessed unmatched power before mysteriously disappearing decades ago. Patrick dismisses the theory, believing the true hero's potion would be far more powerful, and refusing to believe his frail grandson could possibly be connected to such a legend. Instead, he decides to ask Lion for another, stronger potion, in hopes of helping his sister, who has remained in a magical sleep for centuries. Sylvia smiles at Patrick's growing faith in Lion before reminding him not to worry so much, especially considering her own immense power and long lifespan. Later, Lion returns to the library and notices Patrick seems troubled. After jokingly guessing several possible reasons, he finally realizes the concern is the potion itself. Patrick asks whether Lion can create an even stronger version. Although Lion knows a 3-star potion is beyond his current ability because he lacks rare herbs and succeeded before through luck and excellent equipment, he confidently says it will be possible with enough time. When Lion asks who the potion is for, Patrick reveals it is intended as a gift for Sylvia. Misunderstanding the situation, Lion hilariously imagines a romance between the two elders and promises to brew the perfect potion. Patrick is outraged when Lion requests 2 weeks, so Lion quickly shortens the deadline to 1 week before escaping the room, pleased that he has earned the trust of the family's richest member. As Lion walks through the forest, he worries about producing a stronger potion. Buying expensive herbs or ready-made potions is impossible, so he checks the system's coin shop. The catalog is filled with outrageously expensive items, leaving him unable to afford anything. Realizing he must rely on hard work instead, he concludes that better harvesting tools are his next priority. His search leads him to a busy blacksmith's workshop. After hearing that a wealthy noble customer has arrived, the master blacksmith comes out to meet Lion. To the giant's surprise, Lion politely asks to become his apprentice and offers a generous bag of gold in exchange for forging lessons. Lion paused in front of a blacksmith's shop, carefully studying the tools displayed in the showcase. As he inspected them, he quickly realized that the hoes were poorly made. It became clear to him that the finest craftsmen devoted their talents only to creating valuable weapons, rather than ordinary farming equipment. Even as the eldest son of the respected Astri family, He knew obtaining a truly exceptional tool would not be easy. Determined to try another approach, Lion walked into the workshop and politely requested permission to use one of the forges. Hoping to persuade the craftsman, he offered an extremely generous payment and revealed a heavy pouch overflowing with shining gold coins. The amount was so extravagant that everyone present was stunned. The master blacksmith, a gruff dwarf, showed immediate irritation, believing another noble had come to play pointless games. Meanwhile, his younger assistant attempted to ease the tension and even tried returning the money, explaining that such a fortune was far too much for a simple hoe. Lion accepted the comment with an embarrassed smile, while the assistant kindly warned him to be careful of dishonest merchants who might exploit such generosity. With the misunderstanding settled, the assistant welcomed Lion into the workshop and prepared a place for him to work. The dwarf, however, looked at the young noble with obvious doubt, questioning whether someone with such a refined appearance could handle the demanding labor of a forge. As Lion observed the dwarf more closely, he recognized him as a member of the legendary dwarf race. Their people were renowned for their incredible endurance, immense physical strength, resistance to extreme heat, and unmatched craftsmanship. Surprised to encounter such a pure-blooded dwarf, Lion introduced himself respectfully. After the blacksmith demanded his name, the dwarf immediately recognized him as the unusual heir of the prestigious Astri family and ordered his assistant to prepare a workstation. The assistant looked embarrassed by his master's rough manners, while quickly obeying the command. Before Lion could learn the dwarf's name, the blacksmith had already walked away. The assistant introduced himself as John and explained that the master was called Mudu. He then guided Lion through the workshop, showing every forge, tool, and piece of equipment, while encouraging him to feel at home. As they walked, John explained that everything crafted inside eventually became the items displayed in the storefront. Lion admired the workshop's careful methods and precise techniques. Every step of the forging process appeared nearly flawless, yet something still felt wrong. While watching the flames, he wondered why such skilled craftsmanship continued producing mediocre quality tools. His thoughts were interrupted by an unusual presence emerging from within one of the furnaces. A notification from his system revealed that a weakened, low-level fire spirit was dwelling inside the forge. Realizing something was amiss, Lion asked John whether the fire had always burned so weakly. The assistant awkwardly admitted that its strength had indeed faded. Mudu soon arrived carrying a metal plate and confirmed that the flames had noticeably weakened. Curious, he asked how Lion had noticed the problem so quickly. Lion calmly explained that the fire itself had revealed its condition. The answer shocked the dwarf completely. Before John could continue speaking, Mudu abruptly stopped him and ordered him to leave. Wanting privacy, the dwarf escorted Lion outside the workshop. Surrounded by the quiet breeze, he seriously asked whether Lion had truly seen the fire spirit. After receiving confirmation, Mudu wanted to know if the young noble had any way of healing it. Though uncertain, Lion admitted there was a possibility. Hearing that answer gave the dwarf renewed hope. Mudu promised that if Lion could restore the spirit, he would personally teach him the secrets of blacksmithing, prioritize every request he ever made, and reward him with something truly special. Knowing the workshop's famous reputation and the countless important commissions it received, Lion immediately recognized the value of such an offer and gladly accepted the challenge. Mudu explained that after years of expanding his workshop, the fire spirit had gradually lost its strength. Unable to communicate with spirits himself, he feared the quality of every future creation would continue declining. Although he still doubted Lion's physical abilities, he placed all his hopes in the young noble. After carefully examining the spirit, Lion discovered the true problem. Rather than lacking power, the exhausted creature was simply suffering from severe thirst. The explanation completely confused Mudu. When Lion suggested using water, the dwarf reacted with disbelief, convinced that such an idea would destroy the flames. Lion patiently clarified that the spirit required something specially prepared, rather than ordinary water. Growing increasingly desperate, Mudu swore he would even surrender his greatest masterpiece if Lion succeeded in saving the workshop. After confirming the promise, the two sealed their agreement with a firm handshake, and Lion immediately began searching for a solution. That night, the peaceful workshop rested beneath the bright moonlight, while Lion remained hard at work. Amused by the unexpected overtime, he focused entirely on helping the weakened spirit. He realized that the creature had been forced to sustain the massive workshop without rest, until it eventually collapsed from exhaustion and dehydration. After identifying the perfect ingredient, Lion chose a sprig of water rosemary. He processed the herb into a special oil specifically suited to the fire spirit's needs. His system confirmed that the finished mixture possessed excellent restorative properties. Lion gently poured the oil into the flames. The spirit responded immediately, and its hydration began recovering. Realizing one treatment would not be enough, Lion prepared additional batches by extracting every drop of essential oil from fresh leaves. Gradually, the spirit regained all of its vitality, grew larger, and shone with brilliant intensity. The grateful creature rewarded Lion with a significant amount of experience through the system. Not long afterward, Mudu rushed into the workshop in overwhelming excitement after witnessing the restored flames. Filled with admiration, he could hardly believe what Lion had accomplished. However, his celebration quickly turned into concern. After noticing the young noble's exhausted condition, Lion attempted to hide his fatigue and insisted that everything was fine. But after spending the entire night working without rest, his body had reached its limit. Completely drained of strength, he suddenly collapsed onto the workshop floor. Panic immediately spread through the room as Mudu desperately called for help and tried everything he could to wake the unconscious young noble. The next morning, gentle smoke drifted from the workshop chimney beneath a bright blue sky. When Lion finally regained consciousness, he found two curious children watching him closely. Their fascination quickly turned into a cheerful conversation as they introduced themselves, and Lion responded warmly in return. As they shared breakfast, Lion couldn't help smiling at the close bond between the siblings. Their playful interactions reminded him of the younger brother he had left behind in his previous life. Although those memories carried a complicated mix of emotions, he deliberately pushed them aside. Rather than dwelling on the past or worrying about his family's future, he chose to focus entirely on the path ahead. The peaceful moment was interrupted when the children's mother entered the room and gently sent them outside so they would not disturb the guest during his meal. One of the children continued teasing Lion by using a nickname instead of his real name. Lion laughed and patiently repeated that his name was Lion, hoping the boy would remember it. Instead, the child decided that young master sounded much more impressive. Finding the idea amusing, Lion simply accepted the title. After ushering the energetic children outside, their mother apologized for their behavior. Lion dismissed her concerns and sincerely complimented the delicious soup she had prepared. She admitted that she had been terrified when her husband carried the unconscious young noble home earlier that morning. Deeply grateful for Lion's help, she thanked him with emotion. Lion insisted that the meal and the chance to rest were already more than enough repayment. Soon afterward, Mudu entered the house and asked whether Lion had recovered. The children eagerly rushed to greet their father, who affectionately lifted them into his arms. He happily confirmed that Lion had truly restored the weakened fire spirit. Wearing a satisfied smile, Lion announced that he had finished eating and was ready to resume his training. Mudu revealed that everything had already been prepared inside the workshop. Upon entering, Lion was greeted by an impressive display of finely crafted tools. The dwarf reminded him that any future request would receive top priority, but explained that an even greater reward awaited. Leading Lion deeper into the workshop, Mudu revealed stacks of refined, high-quality iron bars ready for forging. Lion expressed sincere gratitude for the master's generosity. Amused, Mudu joked that he had no intention of providing inferior materials. Eager to begin, Lion declared that he wanted to learn everything as quickly as possible. Mudu started the lesson by explaining the most important principle of blacksmithing: precise control over temperature. He emphasized that metal turning red was not enough, as overheating could permanently ruin it. Only when the iron reached a brilliant golden glow was it ready to be worked. With practiced movements, the dwarf demonstrated how each hammer strike had to be carefully controlled to shape the blade correctly. Once the basic form was complete, every detail was refined before sharpening the edge. Finally, he secured a wooden handle to the finished piece and proudly presented the completed tool, asking whether the process had seemed difficult. Lion thanked him for the lesson and expressed his excitement at learning from such a skilled craftsman. After receiving permission to use the iron bars, he enthusiastically gathered the entire supply at once. Mudu was horrified when Lion tossed all of the iron into the forge without following the traditional preparation process. Remaining completely confident, Lion explained that he wanted to experiment with a different forging method. He immediately began hammering the heated metal, only to discover that forging demanded far more physical strength than he had expected. His first attempt failed completely, with the system declaring the finished piece unusable. Exhausted but determined, Lion refused to stop. He continued forging again and again, slowly improving with each attempt. As his rhythm became steadier, he finally discovered the perfect balance between heat and timing. Striking the glowing iron with confidence, he successfully completed the forging process. The system rewarded his achievement by unlocking the blacksmith talent, leaving Mudu astonished by his rapid progress. Filled with excitement, the dwarf instructed Lion to continue working with the newly forged base. He immediately noticed that the metal possessed a remarkably different quality compared to ordinary materials. The Lion carefully sharpened the blade before attaching its handle, completing a magical hoe infused with the blessing of the restored fire spirit. Mudu could hardly contain his admiration. He declared that Lion possessed extraordinary talent, and insisted that the finished hoe surpassed even those crafted by the royal blacksmiths. While the dwarf wanted to celebrate the accomplishment, Lion preferred only a brief rest before eagerly asking to learn how to forge a magical scythe next. For a moment, Mudu stood frozen, unable to believe the young noble's endless enthusiasm. Then he burst into laughter, calling Lion's determination almost unbelievable. Accepting the challenge, the master promised to teach him everything he knew. Lion quietly celebrated to himself, knowing his plan was unfolding exactly as intended. Later that night, beneath the gentle glow of the full moon, Lion silently renewed his determination to fulfill his grandfather's cherished wish. Deep within the forest, the rhythmic sound of digging echoed through the darkness as he tested his newly crafted magical hoe. Using the tool with remarkable precision, Lion searched the ground for rare materials. The system soon announced that he had successfully harvested a rare finger ginseng root, an ingredient valued for restoring energy and creating powerful potions. Examining the plant with satisfaction, he realized how greatly the magical hoe improved his ability to gather valuable resources. Its benefits extended beyond easier harvesting. With both of his newly acquired magical tools, Lion noticed that many more rare herbs around him began glowing, making them easier to locate. Encouraged by this discovery, he concluded that further improving his skills would eventually allow him to create a coveted 3-star potion. Determined to master his new equipment, Lion continued exploring the forest without stopping. His efforts soon rewarded him with additional rare leaves and shoots from an unusual variety of sweet potato. After noticing the freshly dug hole, he realized several more potatoes remained buried beneath the ground. Just as he prepared to continue, the magical hoe suddenly became intensely hot before erupting in flames. Startled, Lion nearly stumbled backward. Moments later, the system revealed that the fire spirit's blessing had activated automatically, perfectly roasting every sweet potato hidden beneath the earth. After digging up the roasted sweet potatoes, Lion happily read the system notification, explaining that the magical roasting effect could be used on almost any type of food. Looking at the perfectly golden sweet potato, he couldn't help admiring how a single strike from the enchanted hoe had cooked it to perfection. The delicious aroma quickly convinced him to take a well-earned break before returning to work. Eager to eat, Lion took his first bite without waiting for it to cool. The intense heat immediately caught him off guard, slightly burning his mouth. Even so, he simply laughed at his own impatience. Blowing gently on each bite afterward, he continued enjoying the meal. To him, sweet potatoes always tasted best when eaten piping hot. Every mouthful carried just the right amount of sweetness, along with a rich, earthy flavor, enhanced by the magical roasting. Sitting comfortably on the forest grass, Lion found himself reminded of simple moments from his previous life, when he enjoyed hot sweet potatoes with milk. The nostalgic memory filled him with warmth as he savored every bite with genuine satisfaction. As he ate, several round little birds quietly landed nearby. One tiny bird stared at him curiously, prompting Lion to tear off a small piece of sweet potato and gently toss it onto the ground. The little creature eagerly swallowed the treat and seemed delighted. Smiling, Lion silently encouraged it to eat without rushing. Before long, more birds fluttered around him, filling the peaceful clearing with cheerful energy. Their company reminded him of an old companion from a game he once cherished. Feeling refreshed after the meal, Lion stood up and turned his attention back to his work. Before collecting the herbs needed for his potions, he decided to gather a few more sweet potatoes while he was already in the area. Several days later, bright sunshine illuminated the Grand Astri family estate as butterflies drifted through the gardens. Back at the mansion, Lion's assistant grew increasingly anxious. 3 full days had passed without any news from the young master, and rumors about Lion's poor condition and possible expulsion from the family had begun spreading throughout the estate. While worrying over the situation, the assistant was suddenly startled by a familiar voice. Turning around, he found Sylvia, the mansion's imposing headmaid, standing behind him with her usual calm yet intimidating presence. He shared the unsettling rumors with her, expressing concern over Lion's disappearance. Just then, Lion emerged from the trees covered in dirt, waving cheerfully, with a plump little bird perched comfortably on his shoulder. Both the assistant and Sylvia stared in complete surprise before hurrying toward him. Concerned by his filthy appearance, they questioned what had happened. Lion simply smiled, scratched the back of his neck, and assured them that nothing serious had occurred during his absence. The assistant soon noticed the bird resting on Lion's shoulder and asked about it with curiosity. Lion looked equally surprised, apparently unaware that the little creature had followed him all the way back to the mansion. Maintaining her composed expression, Sylvia stepped forward and politely attempted to redirect his attention. Instead, Lion immediately asked whether his grandfather had sent any message regarding him. Pretending to be disappointed, he jokingly remarked that the old man was terrible at keeping secrets. Sylvia looked puzzled, but Lion calmly explained that gathering the necessary ingredients had simply taken longer than expected. Hearing that he had successfully collected every rare ingredient left her completely stunned. Without wasting another moment, Lion hurried toward the mansion, eager to begin brewing the magical potion. As he disappeared into the building, he called back for his assistant not to worry, and to get some rest instead. The assistant chased after him, desperately insisting that he at least treat the scratches covering his body. But Lion never slowed down. Sylvia remained standing quietly, watching him disappear from view. Deep in thought, she reflected on everything she had witnessed. Because she was a witch, ordinary potions had never affected her. Even so, she had always felt a quiet fondness for Lion, remembering the frail, constantly ill child he used to be. She found herself deeply moved by the determination he now displayed, willingly pushing himself through sleepless nights to accomplish his goals. A quiet sense of hope slowly grew within her. For the first time in many years, she smiled gently, realizing that Lion's actions had touched her far more deeply than she expected. At the same time, she questioned whether someone once considered so weak could truly create a magical potion of such legendary quality. A few peaceful days passed before Sylvia finally entered the Patriarch's library. Patrick immediately noticed her unusual expression and asked whether Lion's mysterious potion had produced any results. With faintly flushed cheeks, Sylvia admitted that after drinking the potion, her thoughts had become remarkably clear, and her emotions felt calmer than ever before. She initially assumed Patrick had secretly assisted in creating it, but the old patriarch firmly denied having any involvement. His attention, he explained, had been focused entirely on preparing for his beloved grandson's upcoming coming-of-age ceremony. Sylvia's expression quickly grew serious. If Lion had truly created the potion without assistance, the consequences could become politically dangerous. Looking at the small vial resting on the table, she concluded that the formula closely resembled the legendary hero's potion. She went on to explain the ancient legends surrounding the world's true hero, a chosen figure destined to stand against overwhelming monsters and protect humanity. Yet those same legends described a tragic fate. Heroes endured endless suffering, unbearable sacrifices, and profound loneliness. Once peace finally returned, they vanished without recognition, treated as though destiny itself had discarded them. Patrick sadly agreed. Every legendary hero throughout history had disappeared without leaving behind a single trace. Even those who had once fought beside them spent years searching, yet none ever discovered what became of them. The old patriarch then asked the question, weighing heavily on his heart. If Lion truly was the reborn savior described in those legends, what should they do? With visible pain, Patrick admitted that he had already lost countless comrades during the war. He refused to watch his own grandson suffer the same fate. Sylvia answered with quiet confidence. If Lion truly carried such a destiny, then protecting his identity would become their highest priority. Moments later, she stunned Patrick by calmly announcing her decision to retire from her position. The patriarch slammed his hand against the table in disbelief, arguing that abandoning everything for Lion was pure madness. He reminded her that his greatest wish had always been to free her from the ancient contract that bound her to the mansion. Before he could continue, Sylvia firmly interrupted him. She insisted that worrying about her own fate as a witch no longer mattered. Every word of the ancient contract was permanently etched into her memory. Although its magic prevented her from leaving the estate, it still allowed her to live freely within its walls. Thanks to the potion Lion had created, she finally felt truly human again after countless years. At that moment, she revealed her astonishing youthful appearance and silently vowed to use her immense magical power to protect him from whatever dangers lay ahead. Elsewhere within the Astri estate, another surprising announcement spread through the household. A new head maid had been appointed unexpectedly. Upon hearing the news, the family's second son, Rixel Astri, reacted with clear irritation, questioning whether the new head maid had truly been assigned to serve Lion exclusively. Rixel is known as an unmatched genius and the youngest fourth circle mage in the dynasty's history. Resembling his grandfather Patrick, he is admired as a powerful prodigy with remarkable intelligence and discipline. When a new servant unexpectedly arrives, Rixel grows suspicious. After examining the records, he finds no logical reason for Sylvia's sudden retirement. The night before, he had asked her if she truly intended to leave the Grand Castle. She confirmed it, explaining that Lion's potion had miraculously restored her health. Unable to understand how such a thing was possible, Rixel listened as Sylvia suggested he spend a day observing his older brother. She reminded him that he had once followed Lion everywhere as a child, and hinted that doing so again might reveal the truth behind Lion's sudden transformation. Though doubtful, Rixel decides to investigate. He secretly follows Lion into the eerie forest of Mimir near the Asteri borders. As he wanders through the silent woods without finding any trail, he questions why Lion personally gathers plants instead of sending someone else. A steady digging sound soon catches his attention. Quietly approaching a clearing, he discovers Lion holding a glowing sweet potato. Just as Lion is about to eat it, Rixel panics, believing something dangerous is happening. He instantly casts wind magic, knocking the potato far away. The unexpected attack leaves Lion startled, while the roasted potato lands in the damp grass. Realizing his meal is ruined, Lion collapses in despair. Rixel's attempt at spying is exposed, leaving him deeply embarrassed. Lion briefly imagines his younger brother had come all that way simply to check on him. Rixel apologizes, explaining he only wanted to stop him from eating food that had fallen onto the ground. But Lion points out that potatoes naturally grow in dirt. Rixel responds with an overly technical explanation of the vegetable, only making it obvious that he has never eaten a sweet potato before. Amused, Lion says Rixel has been missing one of life's simple pleasures. He invites him to sit on a nearby log while he digs up more potatoes. Before leaving, Lion asks Rixel to light a campfire with fire magic. The young mage easily creates one and quietly watches the flames until Lion returns carrying fresh potatoes. Without hesitation, Lion tosses them straight into the burning embers, shocking Rixel, who fears they will burn. Lion calmly explains that the thick skins protect the inside. The brothers sit together beside the warm fire, enjoying the peaceful night. Lion explains that stepping away from exhausting routines helps clear the mind, and Rixel silently accepts the advice. Once the potatoes are ready, Rixel carefully tastes roasted sweet potato for the first time. The rich sweetness surprises him, and he quickly realizes how delicious it is. Lion explains that they are rare banana potatoes, perfect for staying warm during freezing forest days. Rixel eats far more enthusiastically than expected. Lion laughs, remembering how boys his age always seem endlessly hungry. Only after noticing the pile of potato skins does Rixel realize how much he has eaten. Embarrassed, he tries to justify himself, but Lion simply encourages him to eat as much as he wants. The conversation becomes more personal. Rixel thanks Lion for everything he has done, while carrying the family's burden despite years of illness. He admits he never blamed Lion for his weakness. Instead, the only emotion he secretly carried was envy, because Lion possessed something he himself lacked. Ashamed, he struggles to explain, but Lion understands. Seeing past Rixel's brilliance, he recognizes that his younger brother is still just a child. He reassures him that occasional selfish feelings are normal, encourages him to enjoy life instead of studying endlessly, and praises all the effort he has made for the family. Remembering Sylvia's advice, Rixel realizes the visit was worthwhile and leaves feeling happier than ever. Back in his room, Lion checks his virtual menu and is pleased to see he has earned thousands of silver coins. He plans to unlock the coin shop soon and notices how much his level has increased after brewing potions for Sylvia. He jokingly teases his grandfather about being rejected by Sylvia, amusing himself while the old man becomes visibly annoyed. Feeling relieved that he is no longer at risk of being thrown out of the family, Lion relaxes and enjoys the fact that he has finally grown closer to Rixel. Later, Lion walks through the castle and visits the room of the family's new maid. The elegant young woman with dark hair introduces herself as Elia. Although Lion senses something unusual, he quickly realizes why his grandfather had been acting strangely before. He warmly welcomes Elia and thanks her for joining the Asteri household, mentioning that her arrival unexpectedly helped him and Rixel become closer. Elia pretends not to understand the remark, so Lion casually changes the subject, saying they can continue the conversation another time, because he has an important appointment with Rixel. The brothers soon head into the lively town. During the walk, Lion becomes concerned that his stamina remains unusually low, despite all the physical activity he has been doing. Suspecting lingering effects of mana shock, he decides he should eventually see a cleric. Watching Lion struggle to keep up, Rixel quietly worries about his health before the upcoming succession ceremony. He secretly comes up with a plan to lead Lion to a temple without making him suspicious by arranging volunteer work connected to the local clergy. When Lion asks about their destination, Rixel explains that they first need ordinary clothes to avoid attracting attention. Instead of a normal clothing store, however, he leads Lion to a famous magical item shop known only to influential people. Lion becomes curious after hearing that some of the merchandise may not be entirely legal. Browsing the shelves, he finds magical pens, enchanted earrings, and other unusual items that resemble children's toys. Rixel explains that despite their appearance, they are surprisingly effective. An energetic shopkeeper welcomes them and proudly claims the store has everything imaginable. After hearing they need disguises, he introduces a collection of magical accessories, from height-enhancing insoles to advanced artifacts that can even change hair color. The brothers purchase an item called Unrecognizable Child, which completely alters hair and eye color. As they leave, Lion discovers several complementary items inside the package. Opening them, he is amazed to find a craftsman's repair kit that seems even more valuable than their purchase. Since Rixel has no use for it, he happily gives all the gifts to Lion. The brothers enter a quiet alley and activate their disguises. Blue magical energy surrounds them, instantly changing their appearances. Satisfied with the flawless transformation, they continue through town until they arrive at a watermill. Confused, Lion wonders why they have come there. Rixel explains that the mill produces flour and fresh bread, which they plan to donate to a local orphanage. Secretly, however, he has another objective. The mill owner, Nicholas, warmly welcomes them. Rixel knows the generous merchant has close ties with the clergy, making him the perfect person to introduce Lion to the temple. Nicholas praises the outstanding quality of the wheat they purchased and asks why they need so much flour. Rixel explains that he wants to help hungry children in town. Impressed by the idea, Nicholas recommends donating everything to the temple-run orphanage. Internally, Rixel celebrates as his plan unfolds perfectly. When asked about the orphanage, Nicholas estimates that around 30 children live there. Although the facilities are decent, recent funding shortages have left them struggling because the region's noble mage families rarely support charities run by clerics. Hoping the brothers can improve the children's situation, Nicholas wishes them success. After hearing this, Lion points out that donating only flour would still leave the clerics with the long task of baking it. Inspired, he suggests preparing the bread themselves so the children can enjoy fresh food immediately. Nicholas realizes the kitchen may not have enough ingredients, but agrees that freshly baked bread would make the donation far more meaningful. Delighted by the idea, he offers the use of his famous bakery. Rixel quietly feels guilty for focusing only on Lion's health, while overlooking the hardships faced by the orphaned children. Watching Lion's warm smile, he becomes even more impressed by his brother's genuine kindness. Filled with enthusiasm, Lion agrees that baking the bread themselves is the best way to help. The three begin cooking in the sunlit mill using carefully selected ingredients. Lion examines the olive oil and notes that its quality will improve the bread's flavor. Nicholas guides them through a traditional whole wheat recipe, demonstrating each step, from mixing flour, milk, and yeast, to letting the dough rise, adding crushed sunflower seeds, and shaping it into smooth loaves. Rixel watches closely and concludes that baking is much easier than mastering magic. He quickly finishes his dough and turns to check on Lion, who struggles with the process. To give Lion more time, Nicholas bakes his own loaf and Rixel's first. When they come out of the oven, one loaf is completely burned. Nicholas reassures Rixel that it was a respectable first attempt despite the mistake. Soon Lion's bread is ready. As Nicholas removes it from the oven, a brilliant golden light fills the bakery. The system announces that Lion has created a perfect grade whole wheat bread, increasing his cooking mastery. Astonished, Nicholas cannot believe the flawless result and asks how Lion managed it. Lion modestly explains that he simply wanted to bake the best bread possible for the orphaned children, and even added decorative cuts to make the loaves more appealing. Deeply moved, Nicholas realizes he had misjudged the brothers, while Rixel sincerely praises Lion's remarkable cooking talent. Inspired, Nicholas suddenly rushes out of the mill, asking the brothers to continue baking while he is gone. Rixel worries they may have interrupted his work, but Lion reassures him, and the two turn the task into a friendly competition. Together, they bake dozens of loaves, cookies, and other treats as Lion's cooking mastery continues to rise. Not long afterward, Nicholas returns with an entire crowd of townspeople eager to help. A cheerful woman explains that Nicholas had shared the brothers' generosity, inspiring everyone to contribute. She mentions that her blacksmith husband was busy, so she came in his place, realizing she might reveal his disguised identity. Lion quickly signals for silence. The volunteers immediately organize supplies, bringing flour, milk, and other ingredients from their homes. One remarkably strong woman effortlessly carries enormous sacks of potatoes, explaining she once fought bears in her youth. Rixel is amazed by the townspeople's generosity and unity, ashamed that his original motive had been political. He looks at Lion with admiration and resolves that helping his beloved brother remains what matters most. More than ever, Rixel becomes convinced that Lion is destined for great things. A few hours later, everyone arrives at the temple-run orphanage with the freshly baked food and donated supplies. The priestess in charge is overwhelmed with gratitude and tearfully thanks everyone, asking how she can repay such kindness. Lion humbly replies that seeing everyone happy is reward enough. The delicious aroma quickly attracts the children. As they excitedly gather around, the priestess gently reminds them to express their gratitude. Opening the donation boxes, the orphans are thrilled to discover not only fresh bread, but also new clothes. The priestess invites the brothers to personally hand out the bread, and they gladly accept. Lion kneels to each child, carefully giving them a warm loaf while watching their joyful smiles. Amid the cheerful celebration, Lion notices a quiet figure hiding behind a large tree. A lonely, dark-haired boy watches from a distance, before fleeing the moment he is spotted. Curious about the child's fearful reaction, Lion asks the priestess about him. She sadly explains that the boy's name is Peter, and gently asks them not to misunderstand his distant behavior. As Peter disappears into the distance, his name lingers in Lion's thoughts. The priestess is relieved that nearly every child at the orphanage has received a warm meal. She then notices Lion walking away with a basket full of bread and wonders where he is going. Smiling gently, Lion explains that Peter has not received his share. The priestess sadly reveals that the shy boy had rejected help several times and eventually refused all charity after repeated emotional hurt. Rixel quietly follows and notices that Peter is about the same age as the blacksmith's children. Seeing how painfully thin the boy is fills him with sympathy. Lion softly calls Peter's name, startling the frightened child. Approaching with patience, Lion offers him a freshly baked loaf, describing its warm aroma and soft texture. Peter's stomach growls loudly, exposing his hunger, but he stubbornly refuses the food. Realizing this is not simple stubbornness, but a lack of trust, Lion chooses not to pressure him and simply sits beside him in silence. As the other volunteers finish their work and leave, time passes until Peter accidentally falls asleep beneath the tree. When he wakes, he assumes everyone has gone, and bitterly convinces himself that people only perform charity for their own satisfaction. To his surprise, Lion is still there, calmly waiting without disturbing his rest. Lion casually offers the bread once more, but Peter refuses again. Accepting the answer without complaint, Lion tears the loaf in half and begins eating it himself. Watching his bread disappear, Peter quickly panics and grabs the remaining half before it is gone. One bite is enough to leave him amazed by its warmth and delicious flavor, and he eagerly finishes every bite while Lion quietly watches with a gentle smile. Lion then offers Peter another piece, revealing it was originally his own portion. Peter cannot understand why someone would willingly give away their meal. Although it is only ordinary bread without expensive ingredients, its taste feels unlike anything he has ever experienced. Having spent years believing that wealthy adults only pretended to care before abandoning him again, Peter struggles to understand Lion's genuine kindness. Breaking the silence, Lion shares a simple thought, that even sad adults should never skip meals. He happily admits that while baking the bread, he only hoped someone would truly enjoy it. Hearing those sincere words, Peter finally bursts into tears. When Lion asks if he is crying, the embarrassed boy insists it is only because the bread tastes so good. Shyly, Peter thanks him, filling Lion with quiet happiness. Lion then extends his little finger and promises to bring Peter more delicious bread another day, confidently stating that he has never broken a promise. Peter eagerly accepts, and the two seal the promise with a pinky swear. Excited, Peter declares that next time he will eat 2 whole loaves, while Lion laughs and encourages him to eat 3 before gently patting his head. Watching from a distance, the priestess is deeply moved. It has been a long time since she had seen Peter smile so sincerely, and she quietly regrets how distant everyone had become from him. As Lion leads Peter back toward the other children, hand in hand beneath the evening sky, she silently prays that such a kind-hearted young man will always be blessed. As the sun begins to set, the children happily wave goodbye and ask the brothers to visit again. Just before they leave, the priestess urgently asks them to stay a little longer. She explains that a priest is on the way to bless the children and invites the brothers to receive the blessing as well. Rixel is delighted, realizing his secret plan has finally succeeded, and politely accepts. The priestess leads them along a quieter path, mentioning that the priest should arrive at any moment. Soon, the sound of approaching horse hooves echoes through the area as a luxurious carriage carries an imposing young cleric wearing glasses toward the orphanage. Rixel worries the meeting with the priest could be dangerous and suggests delaying it, but Lion casually agrees to leave instead, claiming he remembered something important at the mansion. He rushes off, saying he wants to practice cooking, leaving Rixel confused but satisfied since he had planned to evaluate the priest first before introducing Lion. Meeting the young cleric alone, Rixel is greeted by Lick, who thanks the anonymous donor behind the orphanage's generous gifts. Rixel confirms he wishes to remain anonymous and notices how unusually young Lick is for someone of such rank. While sharing tea, he humbly credits Lion for the idea of baking fresh bread. Lick asks if Lion was the one who left early because of poor health. Rixel sadly explains that his brother has always been physically weak and admits the charity event was partly meant to bring Lion closer to the clergy for help. Understanding his concern, Lick sympathizes and surprisingly reveals that he had secretly left the temple himself. After a thoughtful pause, he asks Rixel to return 3 days later with Lion for a private meeting. Back at the mansion that night, Rixel eagerly tells Lion that the priest has agreed to examine his health. Although Lion knows he is no longer truly ill after overcoming his mana problems, he accepts the invitation out of courtesy. Rixel happily reminds him that the appointment will take place at dawn 3 days later. At the temple, Lion is impressed by the high-quality holy water prepared by Lick. After greeting each other, Lion immediately asks why such an early meeting was necessary. Lick explains that he experienced a prophetic dream in which the two brothers appeared alongside the orphaned children. The peaceful vision convinced him to meet them personally and learn who they truly were. Although Lick quietly suspects the brothers may be noble spies seeking information about the temple, he proceeds with the examination. Rixel leaves the room, allowing the treatment to begin. Divine green energy surrounds Lion, but the blessing produces no visible effect. Confused, Lick attempts it again before realizing something extraordinary. There are only 3 possible explanations: powerful magic rejection, a body already in perfect health, or a person destined to have a tragically short life. Though unsettled by the mystery, Lick warmly assures Lion that the temple will always help him whenever he needs it. Holding Lion's hands firmly, he urges him to seek him out if unbearable pain ever keeps him awake at night. Slightly puzzled, Lion thanks the cleric before leaving. As Lion walks away, Lick watches him with growing concern. Despite the blessing healing the soreness from baking bread, Lion senses that something about the entire encounter feels strangely unsettling. On the ride back to the Grand Asteri Castle, Rixel celebrates what he believes is Lion's successful treatment. Lion, however, notices the dark circles under Rixel's eyes and asks if he is overworking himself. Rixel insists he is fine and immediately leaves to continue his exhausting mana training. Worried that his younger brother will eventually collapse from overexertion, Lion watches him go. From a distance, Elia remarks that both Rixel and the family patriarch have been pushing themselves far too hard lately. She suggests that Lion speak with their grandfather to help ease the burden. Then, with a clever idea, she recommends bringing the old patriarch some delicious sweets first. Lion eagerly agrees, inspired by the plan. Lion and Elia head to the castle kitchen, where he puts on an apron and begins baking. While preparing the dough, he accidentally calls Elia Sylvia. She gently corrects him and assures him that Patrick will gladly eat anything made with care by his grandson. Embarrassed, Lion continues, until he suddenly remembers a special ingredient. To Elia's surprise, he adds roasted sweet potatoes to the cookie dough, explaining that their natural sweetness will create a lighter dessert. He shapes the cookies into stars and kittens before baking them. The system confirms the sweet potato cookie recipe is a success, and even grants it a fatigue-reducing effect. Both Lion and Elia are impressed by the result, and after tasting one, Lion decides it is even better than the sweets he remembered from his previous life. Elia suggests packaging the cookies, but Lion tells her to rest while he finishes the remaining work. Once alone, Lion opens his hidden inventory and uses his newly unlocked recipes to prepare a special crimson support drink. Using fresh lemons, oranges, cinnamon, and rosemary oil, he brews a fragrant beverage that resembles mulled wine from his previous world. After tasting it, he arranges the drink beside the cookies. The system reveals that the combination greatly reduces fatigue, rewarding Lion with extra experience and silver coins. Proud of his creations, Lion carries the tray to the library to visit Patrick. The old patriarch is surprised that Lion brought everything himself, instead of sending servants. Lion explains that he wanted them to enjoy the treats together. Patrick skeptically tastes one of the bear-shaped cookies, but is immediately amazed by its soft texture and balanced sweet potato flavor. As Lion's cooking level increases again, he happily realizes his grandfather truly enjoyed them. Patrick quickly guesses Lion has another reason for visiting. Laughing, Lion admits it, and asks if Rixel's intense training can be reduced before the upcoming coming-of-age ceremony. He explains that his younger brother has been studying far too hard for someone his age and deserves time to rest. Although Patrick remains stern on the outside, he is deeply touched by Lion's concern for his brother. Happy to see genuine affection instead of rivalry between his grandsons, he agrees to ease Rixel's training schedule. Patrick then asks if Lion wants anything else for his coming-of-age celebration, reminding him that nobles traditionally request valuable gifts for the occasion. To his surprise, Lion asks for nothing. Left speechless, Patrick concludes that his grandson must be expecting him to choose an extraordinary gift on his own. Sensing the increasingly intense atmosphere, Lion quickly excuses himself and leaves the library. After Lion departs, Patrick quietly begins planning the perfect surprise for his grandson, while Lion walks away through the castle halls, completely puzzled by his grandfather's unusual reaction. Rixel sat alone in his room, surrounded by towering stacks of paperwork that had left him completely drained. His concentration was suddenly broken when the office doors burst open. Lion entered with enough force to send loose sheets fluttering across the room, startling Rixel and creating even more chaos. The sight amused Lion, who found the clutter entertaining, and teased his younger brother's untidy workspace. Embarrassed, Rixel lowered his head, wishing Lion had never seen him in such a miserable state. Curious about the unexpected visit, he asked why Lion had come. In response, Lion proudly presented a tray of snacks he had personally prepared. The brothers settled onto a sofa together, and Rixel reached for a bunny-shaped cookie first. After taking a bite, he was amazed by its incredible flavor. He enthusiastically praised Lion's cooking, while Lion humbly explained that preparing delicious food was simply one of his hobbies. Lion then shared some reassuring news. After speaking with their grandfather, he had secured permission for Rixel to take a proper break until the day of the grand ceremony. Having noticed how exhausted his younger brother had become through endless training, Lion wanted him to have time to recover. Deeply touched by such thoughtfulness, Rixel smiled warmly, grateful to have such a caring older brother. Although Lion assumed Rixel's exhaustion came from studying, Rixel revealed that his worries had nothing to do with books. Lion briefly entertained the amusing possibility that the papers might be secret love letters, believing his younger brother was old enough to become interested in romance. However, Rixel quickly clarified that his concerns centered on the upcoming ceremony. Lion immediately understood he meant the family's ancient rite. He recalled that the tradition required participants to travel through the magical library's labyrinth, a place that guided each heir toward the magic best suited for them. Anyone attempting to force their own route would become trapped within an endless maze forever, while successfully reaching the end earned an extraordinary reward. Believing the ritual would be little more than a formality, Lion tried to reassure Rixel despite his lack of mana. To Lion's surprise, Rixel admitted that the ceremony itself was not his greatest concern. Instead, he was terrified of the clothing prepared for the occasion. Completely confused, Lion wondered how ceremonial clothes could possibly be such a serious problem. Rixel placed the outfit design on the table, exposing what he considered their grandfather Patrick's greatest weakness. While Patrick excelled in many areas, fashion certainly was not one of them. His proposed design resembled an outrageous clown costume that threatened to destroy Rixel's dignity before the entire family. The horrifying design immediately sent both brothers into panic. Lion refused to imagine himself wearing such an outfit, while Rixel wholeheartedly shared his horror. As they continued lamenting the disaster, Rixel pointed out that Patrick had only ever appeared well-dressed because Sylvia constantly prevented his worst fashion ideas from becoming reality. Feeling thankful for Sylvia's past efforts, Lion began considering the idea of convincing the entire family to wear standardized ceremonial clothing instead. The following day, Lion visited the village once more. As soon as the children from the orphanage spotted him, they eagerly rushed over. He handed them a small bag filled with his homemade cookies, bringing smiles to every face. Watching the cheerful scene, a woman approached, and Lion politely explained that he needed her help with a special request. He wanted to locate the exceptionally talented tailor who had volunteered at the orphanage. The woman's eyes widened in surprise at the request. Lion explained that he had been deeply impressed by the tailor's craftsmanship, recalling how flawlessly every piece of clothing had been adjusted to fit each orphan. Convinced that only someone with such extraordinary skill could accomplish what he needed, Lion insisted on meeting the artisan. The woman agreed to guide him, but hinted that he would understand her hesitation once he arrived. Following her directions, Lion reached an aging wooden shop that looked as though it had been abandoned years ago. The weathered sign barely clung to the building before finally crashing onto the ground, making the place seem even less trustworthy. Despite his growing doubts, Lion stepped inside. The dim interior, crowded with eerie mannequins, felt completely at odds with the reputation of a legendary tailor. After calling into the silence, Lion was met by a man wearing dark sunglasses, who emerged quietly from the darkness. In the next instant, the stranger's reserved demeanor vanished, replaced by overwhelming excitement at the arrival of a customer. After studying Lion's face, the tailor recognized him as the mysterious volunteer from the orphanage. Lion admitted that he was actually the heir of the Asteres family, and explained that he had disguised himself during the charity work for personal reasons. The tailor accepted the explanation without judgment and welcomed him warmly, wondering why someone of such high status had visited his humble shop. Lion revealed that he was searching for a master tailor capable of creating exceptional clothing. Surprised, the tailor questioned why one of the Empire's most influential noble families would seek his services. He then invited Lion into a more comfortable room where they could speak in private. Along the way, Lion noticed several prestigious trophies displayed on a shelf, including the Empire's highest honor in tailoring. Taking a seat on an old sofa, Lion shared the homemade cookies he had brought, while the tailor apologized for serving nothing more than ordinary tea. The tailor was astonished to learn that Lion had baked the cookies himself. Remembering the delicious bread served at the orphanage, he praised Lion's remarkable culinary talent before happily accepting one of the bear-shaped cookies. The moment he tasted it, his expression completely changed. The delicate sweetness and satisfying crunch melted together into an unforgettable experience. The flavor inspired vivid emotions, filling his imagination with poetic images that shifted from pure innocence to deep mystery. Completely captivated, he felt ordinary praise could never describe such perfection. Overwhelmed by emotion, the tailor declared the cookie to be a genuine work of art. Wiping away tears, he became convinced that Lion possessed a refinement few people could truly appreciate. Seeing the tailor's heartfelt reaction, Lion simply smiled and wondered if he had enjoyed the treat. The tailor admitted that the cookie had nearly brought him to tears and claimed it had filled him with endless inspiration. Filled with gratitude, Andrew promised to answer every question honestly. Assuming Lion had come to commission clothing, he confidently declared that no tailor surpassed his cutting and sewing abilities. However, his confidence soon faded into hesitation. Andrew confessed that his creations might bring embarrassment to a noble household because of his own troubled background. Curious, Lion asked for the real reason behind his concern. Andrew sadly revealed that he was the illegitimate son of a noble family. Because of that birth, prejudice had spread throughout noble society, destroying his once thriving luxury business as wealthy clients gradually abandoned him. Believing his reputation might become a burden, Andrew suggested hiding his identity if Lion still wished to hire him. Rather than accepting such an idea, Lion firmly requested to see Andrew's finished work. Andrew explained that only simple clothing made for ordinary villagers remained on display, but Lion assured him that skill mattered far more than status. Pulling back the curtain, Andrew revealed his collection. The craftsmanship immediately left Lion speechless. Every garment displayed extraordinary precision, despite being designed for commoners. While Andrew modestly dismissed them as everyday clothes, Lion admired their remarkable quality. Even his system evaluated the pieces with impressive ratings, making him even more convinced that he had finally found the master tailor he had been searching for. Lion was left speechless by the incredible craftsmanship before him. Even the simplest garments displayed remarkable quality, and the system confirmed Andrew's flawless techniques with outstanding ratings. Imagining what the tailor could create using top-grade materials, Lion immediately decided that Andrew would design the outfits for his coming-of-age ceremony. The announcement shocked Andrew, who worried that his work might bring disgrace to such an important family. Lion dismissed those concerns, assuring him that no one would dare criticize his choice. Holding up 3 fingers, he requested 3 perfect outfits and asked whether Andrew was willing to accept such a prestigious challenge. Promising to take full responsibility for everything, Lion encouraged the tailor to embrace the opportunity without worrying about cost. Unable to resist the chance to work with rare materials, Andrew eagerly accepted. Sitting down with pen in hand, he enthusiastically recorded Lion's detailed requests for elegant, coordinated outfits. His excitement briefly turned into panic after learning that even Patrick would wear his creations. But Lion brushed aside the opinions of prejudiced nobles. Realizing the Asteries family's influence would silence any criticism, Andrew confidently began planning the project. Soon, Lion presented the legendary Asteries fabric catalog. The sight of the priceless collection filled Andrew with awe as he carefully turned its golden pages. Inside were extraordinary fabrics, crafted by elves and other rare magical materials from across the continent. Every page amazed him, until one particular fabric caught his attention. He fondly remembered that a noble lady had once treasured it, though it had long disappeared from the market. Reading its description through his system, Lion discovered that the enchanted fabric had been created by his grandfather, especially for his mother. Recognizing its sentimental value, he decided to include it in the family's ceremonial clothing, and Andrew confirmed it could be sewn. As Andrew prepared to take measurements, rhythmic knocks interrupted them. Rixel arrived after organizing the delivery of special supplies. Moments later, both Lion and Andrew were stunned to discover a long line of carriages unloading enormous quantities of premium sewing materials. Rixel explained that he had learned about Lion's plans and wanted to ensure his brother's celebration would be absolutely perfect. Delighted, Andrew eagerly replaced his old equipment with the newly delivered tools. After thanking Lion for his patience during the measurements, Andrew promised to create a true masterpiece. Before leaving, Lion made one final request that surprised both Andrew and Rixel. He wanted to learn sewing. Although Andrew warned that beginners often injured themselves, Lion insisted that he only wished to understand the craft well enough to appreciate the dedication behind every stitch. Deeply moved by that sincere reason, Andrew agreed to teach him everything he knew before beginning Rixel's measurements and giving Lion time to explore the shop. As evening approached, Lion wandered through the workshop, continuing to admire the tailor's remarkable craftsmanship. Curious to experience the process firsthand, he decided to sew a simple pair of cotton pants entirely by hand. Retrieving a magical sewing kit, he watched in amazement as the enchanted needle threaded itself and transformed before his eyes. Focusing carefully, Lion began stitching, gradually discovering that sewing was both relaxing and enjoyable. Magical guidelines appeared across the fabric, helping him improve with every stitch until the system showed his project was already 80% complete. Before Lion realized it, Andrew and Rixel had returned. Andrew carefully inspected the unfinished work and praised it as an excellent first attempt, despite a few uneven stitches. The experience suddenly reminded him of the importance of hand sewing, inspiring a flood of fresh ideas and reigniting his passion for the fundamentals of his craft. Watching the tailor become completely absorbed in his creativity, Lion smiled before Rixel reminded him that they needed to return to the mansion for an important dinner with their grandfather. At the castle, the butler informed Patrick that both of his grandsons had arrived and were waiting for dinner. After finishing important paperwork, Patrick headed toward the dining hall. Along the way, the butler remarked that it was unusual for the 3 of them to share a meal. Patrick admitted that his heavy workload existed only to protect his grandson's future, complaining that even decades after the Demon War, The royal family still demanded too much from him. Pushing those thoughts aside, he looked forward to spending time with his only heirs. Entering the dining room, Patrick quietly reflected on how much Lion had changed recently. Seeing both grandsons together reminded him of his late daughter and strengthened his resolve to protect them, especially by keeping Lion's extraordinary potential hidden. Lion greeted him warmly and was surprised by the lavish dinner, while Rixel explained that he had specially requested the feast since it had been so long since they had all eaten together. The meal made Lion remember how, in the past, he had been limited to bland food, while Patrick dined elsewhere, leaving Rixel to eat alone at the enormous table. The realization filled him with guilt, and he suggested that the family begin sharing meals more often. Touched by the idea, Rixel silently appreciated his brother's kindness, while Lion promised himself that his younger brother would never have to experience such loneliness again. Once everyone began eating, the atmosphere quickly turned stiff and quiet. Patrick discussed work with Rixel, making the dinner feel more like a business meeting than a family gathering. Hoping to change the mood, Lion unexpectedly asked whether Patrick had once created a special fabric for his mother. The question visibly unsettled the elderly man. Lion explained that he had recently met a talented tailor who recognized a rare glowing fabric kept in the family's collection. After Rixel confirmed seeing the same material, Lion concluded that it must have belonged to their mother. Realizing he could no longer avoid the painful subject, Patrick finally admitted that Lion was correct. Patrick revealed that he had personally created the magical fabric years earlier to protect his daughter, weaving protective magic into every thread out of a father's love. He never expected the precious material to survive for so many years. The confession left Rixel quietly reflecting on his grandfather's feelings, while Patrick realized that his own grief had unintentionally pushed his grandsons away. Lion announced that he wanted to use the treasured fabric for the family's ceremonial outfits. He then surprised Patrick by asking when he could take his measurements as well. Assuming the clothes were only for the two brothers, Patrick was caught off guard, but Lion insisted that the entire family should wear matching outfits. Rixel suggested inviting Andrew to the castle for everyone's convenience, and the idea was warmly accepted. With a rare smile, Patrick agreed to follow Lion's plan. As preparations for the coming-of-age ceremony continued, everything progressed smoothly. Andrew's frequent visits ensured the family's custom clothing was turning out perfectly, while the castle decorations were completed on schedule. With Patrick and Rixel handling most of the remaining work, Lion suddenly found himself with plenty of free time. Determined to improve his sewing, Lion spent hours practicing. Despite producing increasingly impressive work, the system never displayed a notification confirming that he had learned the sewing skill. After completing an excellent shirt without unlocking the ability, he began to wonder if he simply lacked talent. Trying to stay optimistic, he convinced himself he might only need more practice, but frustration continued to build as he failed to understand why sewing worked differently from cooking. Just as Lion reached his limit and vented his frustration, a maid arrived with unexpected news. Andrew had returned to the mansion with the finished clothes, but something about the tailor seemed unusually troubled. According to the maid, he carried the expression of someone who believed a serious mistake had occurred during the production. Lion hurried to the castle's reception room to find out what had troubled Andrew. The moment he opened the grand doors, he froze in surprise. The room had been transformed into a luxurious tailoring workshop, filled with clothing racks, mirrors, and sewing equipment. Wondering how Andrew had managed to move everything there alone, Lion greeted the tailor, who looked visibly relieved by his arrival. Andrew presented Lion's completed ceremonial outfit and invited him to try it on. The elegant design, decorated with intricate golden embroidery, immediately impressed Lion. Standing before a mirror, he saw the system award the outfit 3 stars for its exceptional quality. Despite the masterpiece, Andrew admitted that something still felt incomplete. After studying his reflection, Lion realized the outfit lacked a focal point around the neck. Andrew enthusiastically agreed, explaining that a scarf or tie would complete the design. Lion decided that Patrick would wear a classic tie, while Rixel would receive a stylish bow tie. Andrew then made an unexpected request. Instead of finishing the outfits himself, he asked Lion to embroider the final details on every family member's clothing. Shocked, Lion hesitated, believing it would be disrespectful to alter a master's work. Andrew explained that he had recently discovered the woman he had once sewn for was Lion's late mother. Remembering Patrick's gratitude and the love woven into the protective fabric, he realized that family clothing carried emotions beyond craftsmanship. Since Patrick had protected the fabric with magic, Andrew believed only Lion could complete the garments by adding his own heartfelt touch. Deeply moved, Lion accepted the challenge. The two sat together to plan the finishing details. Lion revealed sketches he had already prepared, explaining that he wanted Rixel's outfit to emphasize his role as the family's worthy successor. For his own design, however, Lion decided to wait until the others were complete. Andrew began teaching him the fundamentals of tie making, explaining every part of its construction and the techniques required to achieve an elegant finish. Lion quickly understood the terminology, surprising his teacher with how much he had already learned. As the first lesson began, the system immediately pointed out flaws in Lion's first attempt, reminding him that he still had much to improve. Moving on to embroidery, Lion chose to decorate the tie with the Asteries family crest, a pattern of connected leaves symbolizing the family's unbreakable bond. Andrew praised the meaningful design and taught him how proper texture brought embroidery to life. Realizing the task would require intense practice, Lion asked for 3 days to complete all the embroidery himself. Confident in his students' determination, Andrew gladly agreed. Lion spent countless hours practicing. Even after avoiding painful mistakes, like pricking his fingers, the system continued criticizing his plain embroidery. Refusing to rely on magical repair tools, he experimented with his own patterns, determined to improve naturally. The constant needlework left him exhausted, sore, and tempted to quit, but he refused to abandon the project. As Lion finally settled into a steady rhythm, a mysterious golden light spread across the fabric beneath his hands. The system announced that his relentless effort had awakened a special tailoring skill, promoting him to apprentice tailor. With his new ability, his speed and precision improved dramatically. As he continued cutting, pressing, and sewing, his tailoring level quickly rose even further. Reflecting on his previous crafting experiences, Lion realized that every special skill had awakened only when he truly needed the item he was creating. Unlike before, he had achieved this progress without depending on magical assistance, making the accomplishment even more meaningful. The system rewarded his completed tie with a high-quality rating, enhanced by his unique craftsman's touch. When Lion finished the final embroidery, the family crest glowed brilliantly. The system upgraded the accessory to a perfect 3-star masterpiece and praised it as an extraordinary work of art. After placing the tie onto the ceremonial outfit, both pieces resonated together, activating a powerful synergy effect. The completed suit advanced to an impressive 4-star rating, becoming an outfit worthy of the grand coming-of-age ceremony. Lion was stunned to discover that the completed ceremonial outfit possessed several powerful magical effects. The system confirmed that he had finished the first stage of a special tailoring challenge, motivating him to complete the remaining outfits. Keeping his excitement under control, he focused carefully on the next task. After successfully finishing Rixel's bow tie, the system announced that the second stage of the challenge was complete. Looking over Patrick's and Rixel's finished outfits, Lion realized that designing his own accessory would be the greatest challenge. Wanting to avoid repeating the same style, he created a unique tie centered around a beautiful gemstone. Searching through the Asteries family's treasure chest, he selected a magnificent purple jewel whose color perfectly matched his family's distinctive eyes. Once attached to the elegant dark tie, the result exceeded his expectations. The system declared the tailoring challenge complete, rewarded Lion with a large number of coins, and unlocked the special system coin shop. Just as he prepared to explore the new feature, the door burst open. Rixel entered with an intimidating expression, after discovering that Lion had been staying awake every night to sew. Ignoring Lion's excuses about deadlines, Rixel ordered him to get proper rest, while a maid promptly carried the exhausted Lion off to bed, despite his desperate wish to examine the newly unlocked shop. The long-awaited day of the coming-of-age ceremony finally arrived. Wearing his completed suit, Lion received praise from the maid, who admired his elegant appearance, and especially the beautifully crafted tie. Remembering how emotional Andrew had become after seeing the finished outfit, Lion felt relieved that all his hard work had paid off. The maid quietly reflected on how much Lion had grown since his fragile days in the past. Soon, Rixel appeared in his own ceremonial attire and offered to personally escort his older brother to the celebration. Together, they entered the grand hall, where magnificent decorations, glittering chandeliers, and a full orchestra created an atmosphere worthy of royalty. The gathered nobles admired the lavish event, with many commenting that the celebration surpassed even an imperial banquet. Others quietly observed the Asteries family's renewed unity beginning to doubt the old rumors surrounding them. The announcer formally introduced Patrick and his two grandsons. While the nobles respectfully acknowledged Patrick and Rixel, all attention shifted the moment Lion appeared. Descending the staircase with confidence and dignity, he received enthusiastic applause from the guests. Although a few nobles questioned whether he truly looked worthy of becoming the family's future leader, his calm presence and remarkable attire quickly won over much of the audience. Before Lion addressed the guests, Patrick quietly warned him to be careful around the assembled nobles, revealing his hidden concern beneath his usual stern attitude. Lion smiled to himself, recognizing his grandfather's genuine care. Taking the stage, he delivered a graceful speech celebrating his coming of age, expressing sincere gratitude to everyone in attendance, while presenting himself with confidence and maturity. Rixel listened proudly, realizing how dependable and charismatic his older brother had become. Throughout the hall, the nobles praised Lion's refined appearance, noting that although the outfit appeared simple at first glance, it possessed an elegance unlike anything they had seen before. Unable to identify its designer, many admired the craftsmanship, while Patrick quietly complimented Lion's excellent judgment, surprising Rixel with such open praise. After concluding his speech, Lion thanked everyone once more and invited them to enjoy the celebration. The hall erupted into applause as the banquet officially began. Rixel congratulated him on his impressive performance, while Lion privately credited his confidence to the experience he had gained in his previous life. Patrick then offered rare words of approval, proudly acknowledging that Lion upheld the family's noble spirit despite lacking mana or aura. His sincere smile deeply moved Lion. As the family enjoyed the luxurious feast together, Patrick asked Lion what item he intended to bring into the mysterious labyrinth during the upcoming ritual. Knowing the chosen object would influence the reward he received, Lion carefully considered his options. Since ordinary strategies for mages would not necessarily apply to him, the outcome remained uncertain. After reflecting on the possibilities, he revealed that he planned to carry one of the exclusive potions he had crafted himself. Lion's decision to bring one of his own potions into the labyrinth surprised both Patrick and Rixel. Patrick admitted it was a risky choice, but Lion explained that, without powerful magic of his own, his potions were his greatest strength. Since Andrew had crafted the family's finest clothing, Lion believed he should rely on the best item he had personally created. Patrick agreed, trusting that the labyrinth would guide him toward the knowledge he needed. Patrick then asked a serious question about Lion's future. He wanted to know whether Lion had any desire to become the official heir or involve himself in the family's politics. Without hesitation, Lion rejected the idea. He insisted that Rixel was far better suited to lead the Asteries family, deeply moving his younger brother. Satisfied by Lion's answer, Patrick turned to Rixel and asked if he would protect Lion with his life. Rixel solemnly swore to do so, and Patrick quietly accepted the oath, relieved that the family's succession had finally been settled. Although pleased, Patrick remained aware of the dangers surrounding the family. While the imperial family was distracted by its own internal struggles, he considered the greatest threat to be the ruthless House of Swordsmen, a powerful clan rebuilt through a brutal survival ritual. Determined to avoid unnecessary conflict with them, Patrick granted Lion the freedom to pursue his own path. With one strict condition, he was forbidden from recklessly putting himself in danger. Lion promised to stay safe, allowing the family to enjoy the rest of the banquet in peace. As the celebration continued, Lion watched Patrick and Rixel speak with the nobles, before remembering that he also had a goal to accomplish. Soon, a young noblewoman approached to ask who had created his elegant outfit. Delighted by the question, Lion realized he had found Andrew's first potential customer. More noblewomen quickly gathered, eager to learn the identity of the tailor responsible for such remarkable craftsmanship. Some guests mentioned rumors that the tailor had been shunned by the nobility because of political disputes. Realizing Andrew's reputation had suffered unfairly, Lion asked whether that would discourage them. The women laughed, explaining that quality mattered far more than gossip. Taking advantage of the opportunity, Lion proudly revealed Andrew's name and hinted that only a few appointment slots remained. The announcement immediately sparked competition among the interested nobles. The excitement was suddenly interrupted by the arrival of Clarentia, the feared leader of the House of Swordsmen. Her commanding presence silenced the crowd as she walked directly toward Lion. To everyone's surprise, she calmly requested durable training clothes, suitable for daily military life, explaining that her previous outfits had been destroyed. Her intimidating aura caused the surrounding nobles to scatter. leaving only her and Lion standing together. Ignoring her fearsome reputation, Lion treated her like any other customer, accepted the commission, and arranged to discuss payment after the ceremony. Pleased with the successful deal, he also announced that Andrew's order list was now officially open, securing even more future clients for the talented tailor. Before long, a servant announced that the labyrinth ritual was about to begin. Carrying his carefully prepared potion, Lion made his way to the enormous black gate leading to the ancient labyrinth. As he waited, the arrogant first prince, Terrace, attempted to provoke him by asking whether he was nervous about entering without magical talent. Lion calmly ignored the insult, while Rixel immediately stepped in to defend his older brother. Feeling the overwhelming magical pressure radiating from Rixel, the prince wisely backed away. Rixel then handed Lion the potion he had requested, and reminded him to stay safe. Tightening the strap of his bag, Lion fixed his eyes on the ancient gate. Memories of spending his childhood in the magical library filled his mind, as he wondered what treasure the family's first patriarch had hidden within its depths. Accepting the ceremonial artifact from a servant, Lion completed the ritual by making a small cut on his finger and allowing a single drop of blood to fall. Instantly, a brilliant blue magic circle appeared beneath his feet, releasing immense power. As the gigantic gate slowly opened, violent tremors shook the hall, astonishing everyone present. A mysterious light and dense magical mist poured from the entrance, before a powerful whirlwind engulfed Lion completely. In the next moment, he vanished into the ancient labyrinth before the eyes of the entire court. As Lion was pulled into the labyrinth, the system explained that the trial could be completed peacefully, but greed or attempts to damage the maze would transform it into a deadly dungeon. Before Lion could react, everything spiraled out of control. Violent winds erupted throughout the labyrinth, while outside, the palace shook as enormous crystal structures crashed from the ceiling. Panic spread among the guests as debris rained down across the grand hall. Inside the labyrinth, Lion struggled to remain steady against the raging storm, sensing that something had gone terribly wrong. Meanwhile, Patrick and Rixel rushed toward the portal, in fear for Lion's safety. At that moment, the system informed Lion that he had unlocked a special labyrinth achievement, granting him increased intelligence and forming an exceptionally pure mana circle within him. Back in the hall, the collapsing ceiling threatened countless lives. A massive chandelier broke free and plunged toward the crowd, but Patrick instantly erected a powerful golden barrier that protected everyone. His immense magical shield spread throughout the palace, preventing further casualties as he calmly maintained control over the collapsing structure. He immediately ordered the knights to evacuate the guests, while Rixel hurried to investigate the unstable portal. Patrick explained that the magical library had completely lost control. After confirming that the imperial princes were safely protected by Rixel's defensive barriers, he instructed his grandson to summon healers and prepare safe areas for the injured. Declaring that he would personally monitor the portal, Patrick refused Rixel's desperate request to remain beside him. Reminding Rixel of his responsibilities as the family's future leader, Patrick firmly ordered him to oversee the evacuation instead. Though deeply worried for Lion, Rixel reluctantly obeyed and left with the imperial princes. As the destruction continued, Patrick remained alone before the unstable gate, until Clarentia approached through the falling debris. She questioned why he had chosen to stay behind, and observed that he seemed completely convinced Lion was still alive. Patrick was surprised when the feared leader of the House of Swordsmen offered to help contain the disaster. When he asked why she would assist a rival family, Clarentia casually explained that she had already commissioned clothing from Andrew and refused to let her plans be ruined. Amused by her reasoning, Patrick accepted the unexpected support. Soon afterward, the mysterious maid, Elia, emerged from the shadows surrounded by a powerful purple aura. At Patrick's command, she erected a barrier around the entire labyrinth, while he ordered absolute secrecy regarding the incident. Using a magical artifact, Patrick immediately began stabilizing the damaged area, hoping to create a safe passage that would eventually allow Lion to escape. Meanwhile, Lion found himself lying peacefully in a beautiful meadow covered with colorful flowers. Beneath a bright sky, a blue butterfly drifted nearby, as the system announced that he had successfully completed the book Labyrinth and unlocked a special achievement. Confused, Lion realized he had cleared the trial without understanding how it had ended. Remembering the game's original mechanics, he concluded that he had reached the reward chamber. Yet there was no simple button to claim the prize, as there had been in the game. Trying to understand the difference, Lion ruled out the possibility that his newly formed mana was responsible. If mana alone had been the key, Patrick could have claimed the treasure long ago. A new theory soon emerged. Lion wondered whether the labyrinth had recognized not his current body, but the soul inhabiting it. He recalled that Patrick had sealed the treasure inside the labyrinth after the demon war 50 years earlier, and remembered that the legendary hero of that war had mysteriously vanished afterward. Thinking back to the game's story, Lion realized that players had always assumed the role of that legendary hero. A startling possibility came to mind. Perhaps the labyrinth had identified him not as Lion Asteres, but as the hero whose equipment had originally been hidden there. If that theory was correct, then the treasure waiting inside the labyrinth had never truly belonged to Patrick. It had belonged to the legendary hero all along. With everything that had happened, Lion finally understood why the system had wanted him to recover that item. Knowing he could not remain there forever, because he had very little active mana left, Lion decided to search for a physical way out. He walked through the beautiful, colorful field with confidence, believing that an escape route existed, even for someone at his level. Although the scenery looked peaceful, an unnatural silence hung over the area, making every step feel strangely heavy. As he moved forward, he accidentally stepped on one of the delicate white flowers, and immediately paused in doubt. He noticed that the rare white flowers never grew near flowers of other colors. He also observed a specific pattern in the soil. Looking around more carefully, Lion realized that the entire area had been arranged with different types of plants, in a carefully planned layout. Even the spacing between each cluster seemed unnaturally precise, as though every inch of land had been measured before being planted. He understood that species that should naturally remain separated had been deliberately mixed together, making the place seem highly suspicious. Lion concluded that the beautiful field had been intentionally divided into sections, and that the plants had all been cultivated artificially. He deduced that the area with the strangest arrangement, where the natural rules were broken, was most likely hiding the key to his escape. After searching further, Lion finally found a location where flowers from rival species were mysteriously growing together. To uncover the truth, he closed his eyes and concentrated deeply on the rhythm of his own heartbeat. He focused his consciousness inward and visualized his blue mana circle glowing inside his body. A system screen appeared, confirming that his mana circle had been recognized and was ready for analysis. Lion concentrated even harder, allowing the hidden magical energy to become visible before his eyes. A new system message warned that using mana would temporarily enhance his special eye skill. When he opened his eyes again, several red magical traps floated above the grass. The sight startled him as he realized that a single wrong movement could activate deadly spells. Thin streams of mana connected several traps together, forming an invisible network designed to punish careless intruders. He also realized that the hidden treasure was still farther ahead. Despite the overwhelming danger, Lion smiled confidently and chose to continue advancing. He carefully moved through the colorful field, while the magical energy continued glowing around him. As he took another step, he unexpectedly activated a mysterious panel that began glitching strangely. Flickering symbols rapidly appeared and disappeared, before finally stabilizing into readable text. The system informed him that his enhanced skill had revealed the area's true name. Lion celebrated after finally discovering it. He crouched beside the bluish illusionary mana source and focused on it carefully. He understood that he would need to uncover the hidden item buried beneath it. Realizing he needed a proper tool to cut the mana, he decided to check the coin shop since he still had enough funds. The shop unlocked every available item and displayed that his current purchase tier was bronze. Lion became excited after discovering that a brand new survival tab had opened exactly when he needed it. However, he quickly found himself looking at absurd items with ridiculous prices. He began to wonder whether the shop was nothing more than a scam. He complained about the useless selection and wished there were a way to display only items he could actually afford. To his surprise, the system immediately responded to his wish and asked whether he wanted to apply a filter. Lion selected an option that displayed only cheap products with discounts applied. The system immediately began a quick search. The updated list mainly contained magical ingredients and monster rations that were useless for his current situation. Among the few worthwhile options, he found an expensive magic detector and a pair of sharp magical scissors with a massive discount. Since the detector remained too expensive, Lion decided that the discounted scissors were his only practical choice. Without hesitation, he pressed the virtual confirmation button and purchased the tool. The glowing scissors appeared in his hands, He watched his savings disappear almost instantly and felt the painful cost of the purchase. Still, he admired the scissors with relief after learning they were permanently linked to his soul. With the tool ready, Lion prepared himself to cut the magical energy source sealing the area. He then took out a small shovel and silently appreciated all the digging skills he had trained in the past. Lion dug through the earth with remarkable speed while searching for the hidden reward beneath the flowers. Loose dirt scattered in every direction as his movements became increasingly desperate. A bright red warning suddenly appeared on the system screen. It informed him that only 1 minute remained before his enhanced vision expired. Startled by how quickly time had passed, Lion hurried to finish before the effect disappeared. Suddenly, his shovel struck something solid beneath the ground. Relieved, he realized he had found the hidden object. Lion dug even faster, throwing dirt aside as he desperately raced against the remaining time. At last, he pulled a beautiful blue chest from the earth. He smiled after recognizing it as identical to the classic treasure chests from games. With only 10 seconds remaining before the bonus ended, Lion gripped his magical scissors and prepared to cut the mana threads. He performed a precise cut, slicing through the bluish energy chains, sealing the valuable chest. The chest shone with an intense light. Lion celebrated the successful completion of his mission at the exact moment the enhancement expired. The system immediately asked whether he wished to claim the reward. Lion accepted without hesitation. The treasure was instantly transferred into his inventory. He happily confirmed that the item truly belonged to his old account. A new system message suddenly appeared. It announced the automatic beginning of a mandatory story mode that could not be avoided. Lion fell into complete panic after realizing he had no idea what story mode was or what would happen next. Before he could react, the surrounding space began to distort, as if the labyrinth itself were rewriting reality. Meanwhile, outside the labyrinth, the scene shifted to the grand main hall, where Patriarch Patrick and Rixel gathered. Patrick asked about the containment of the damages. Rixel reported that he had disguised the entire incident as an earthquake. He also explained that he had secured the cooperation of the princes and the Vitis family to prevent rumors from spreading. Patrick felt relieved that no rumors had leaked. He believed that the first prince's incompetence had unintentionally helped the situation. Patrick explained that he had acted quickly to erase every clue. His actions prevented both the temple and the underworld from discovering Lion's whereabouts. He praised Rixel for handling the situation well. Patrick silently reminded himself that neither of those powerful factions could ever learn the truth. The system then revealed that the temple's archbishop obsessively investigated everything connected to the ancient hero. It also explained that the underworld had originally been founded by allies of that hero. Over time, the organization had become one of the continent's greatest hidden powers. Patrick understood that if they were careless, those intelligence networks could discover that Lion had awakened an extraordinary skill. The greatest secret behind all these concerns was Lion's powerful connection to the ancient hero. The first sign of that connection had been the mysterious potion. The second was the chaos caused by Lion's entrance into the labyrinth that protected the hidden treasure. Patrick became convinced that a deep mystery surrounded Lion. He also realized that Lion himself knew nothing about the truth. Even so, Patrick remained determined to keep that secret hidden. Suddenly, a violent tremor interrupted their discussion. The massive gate shook intensely, showing that the labyrinth itself was moving chaotically. Patrick immediately ordered everyone to prepare for the worst. At the same time, Rixel sensed an enormous surge of energy coming from inside the labyrinth. A glowing spiral of purple power formed in the center of the passage. It signaled that something was about to emerge from the dungeon. Unexpectedly, a small piece of paper flew out of the portal. The paper struck Patrick directly in the face with surprising force. Rixel picked up the trembling paper, while Patrick stood in complete silence, visibly irritated. Rixel carefully examined the folded note. He quickly realized that it was a message sent from inside the portal. The expression on his face slowly changed from confusion to disbelief as he silently read the first few lines. Rixel's hands trembled as he slowly unfolded the mysterious piece of paper. Every movement reflected his anxiety, as he desperately wanted to discover what message had been left behind. Although the note had clearly been written in great haste, he immediately recognized Lion's familiar handwriting. The hurried writing brought him a small sense of relief, because there were no signs of blood, violence, or any indication that Lion had been harmed. The elderly man watched with growing concern, his face filled with worry as he waited to learn the contents of the letter. His anxiety became more visible with every passing moment. Rixel swallowed nervously, his throat dry from tension. before finally preparing himself to reveal the words that his older brother had left behind. At that same moment, Lion's consciousness was suddenly pulled away, as the system confirmed that story mode had begun playing another memory. His surroundings disappeared, and he found himself seated on the ground with a pounding headache. As the pain slowly faded, he realized that the system had reconstructed another fragment from the past. Lion carefully observed the scene unfolding before him. Darkness surrounded the ancient recording, making it clear that he was witnessing an important memory, rather than experiencing reality. Hidden within the shadows stood a mysterious individual whose expression carried quiet confidence. The figure entrusted Patrick with the responsibility of protecting a metallic chest, explaining that the object would no longer be needed by its original owner. The young man froze in surprise as realization struck him. He understood that he was witnessing the very day his grandfather had received the mysterious treasure directly from the legendary hero. The discovery filled him with excitement, yet frustration quickly followed because the whispered conversation was difficult to hear. Lion became annoyed that he could not clearly make out the important details, silently blaming the randomly generated attributes of his avatar for making the experience even more inconvenient. Within the recorded memory, the younger Patrick accepted the responsibility without hesitation. His loyalty was unwavering as he promised to protect the mysterious metallic chest with complete dedication. Moments later, an eerie laugh echoed throughout the darkness, signaling the conclusion of the scene. The system panel immediately announced that the memory playback had ended, and that story mode was complete. Lion's awareness returned to the ruined library. He remained seated in silence, confused by how abruptly the mysterious projection had ended. The short memory had revealed only a handful of useful details, despite depicting what was obviously one of the most important moments in his grandfather's past. After thinking carefully, Lion concluded that the conversation had taken place during the Great War. He also realized that the legendary artifact had been entrusted to his grandfather specifically, so it could fulfill an important purpose in the future. Turning his attention toward the chest, Lion slowly opened it to inspect its contents. Inside, he discovered a collection of silver accessories designed to completely conceal a user's personal information, magical abilities, and overall power. He quickly remembered that these items had once been common within the game. Experienced players frequently relied on them because they made it much easier to safely earn experience bonuses without exposing their true strength. Feeling relieved, Lion placed one of the silver bracelets on his wrist. The artifact immediately concealed his magical power, allowing him to hide his true abilities precisely when he needed protection the most. Almost immediately afterward, another system window appeared before him. The interface asked whether he wished to analyze the condition of his own mana circle. Curious about the unexpected opportunity, Lion accepted the request without hesitation. The detailed analysis left him stunned. His unique mana circle was unimaginably enormous, possessing the capacity to store an overwhelming amount of magical energy. The discovery completely contradicted everything he knew about ordinary mages. Normally, magic users were forced to spend countless hours meditating in order to slowly increase the capacity of each mana circle as they advanced through higher levels. Still sitting on the ground, Lion quietly reflected on the unbelievable results. He struggled to understand why his very first mana circle already possessed such an enormous reserve of mana. The answer remained a mystery, but after a brief moment of thought, he decided not to waste time questioning his incredible fortune. Instead, he happily accepted this extraordinary advantage that his body had naturally obtained. His successful mission filled him with satisfaction. Not only had he survived the dangerous labyrinth, but he had also obtained a legendary artifact capable of concealing his power and protecting his identity. The achievement represented one of the greatest rewards he could have hoped for. Despite his excitement, another serious concern quickly entered his mind. Lion let out a worried sigh as he remembered the enormous unresolved problem still surrounding him. He slowly looked around the devastated library, taking in the countless destroyed bookshelves and scattered ruins. The harsh reality soon became impossible to ignore. He was still trapped deep inside the labyrinth. Determined to escape, Lion began walking through the damaged library in search of a safe route leading back to the dungeon entrance. However, before he could travel very far, several system notifications suddenly appeared. The messages informed him that every exit remained completely sealed because only the current master of the labyrinth possessed the authority to unlock them. Lion stopped in complete shock after discovering that he himself had become the new master of the labyrinth. Assuming ownership of such an enormous dungeon had never been part of his plans, making the revelation even more overwhelming. The system continued providing additional information. It explained that the labyrinth's entrance had been completely destroyed, but it also offered him the option of instantly returning to the dungeon's safest and final area. Hearing this, Lion imagined the furious lecture his grandfather would undoubtedly give him after seeing the destruction caused during his adventure. The thought alone filled him with dread. After calming himself, Lion suddenly realized that becoming the labyrinth's master also meant gaining complete authority over its functions. If he controlled the labyrinth, then he should also possess the ability to restore everything that had been destroyed. A new system panel appeared, offering the option to completely reset the labyrinth. Lion immediately rejected the proposal because doing so would erase every valuable item and reward he had worked so hard to obtain. Searching for another solution, he requested an alternative. The system responded by recommending a manual restoration process, allowing the entrance to be repaired gradually without sacrificing any treasures. Lion compared the process to editing an old save file inside a game. Based on that comparison, he decided to restore the labyrinth to the condition it had been in exactly 1 week earlier. Curious about the repair process, Lion asked how long the restoration would require. The system answered with disappointing news, explaining that he would remain trapped inside the labyrinth until every repair had been completed. The estimated completion time immediately appeared before him. More than 600 hours would be required, amounting to an entire month of waiting. The shocking number pushed Lion into complete despair. Trying to find some comfort in the situation, Lion asked if he could freely explore the library while the repairs continued. The system confirmed that, as the labyrinth's master, he had unrestricted access to every area. While exploring, Lion found a correspondence tube that could send messages outside the labyrinth. Wanting to ease his family's worries, he wrote a short note letting them know he was safe. After finishing, a mischievous smile spread across his face. Adjusting the bag on his shoulder, he mentally prepared for an entire month of isolation before giving the command to begin the repairs. A gigantic green magic circle instantly spread across the enormous hall, flooding the ruins with magical energy. Books, shelves, and countless scattered objects floated through the air as the labyrinth's ancient magic slowly restored every damaged structure. Satisfied that everything was proceeding smoothly, Lion requested transport to the labyrinth's safest and final area while the repairs continued automatically. A circular portal opened before him. A refreshing breeze flowed through the glowing gateway as he stepped inside. Moments later, he emerged onto a beautiful grassy field bathed in warm sunlight. Quietly reflecting on the month ahead, Lion wondered how he would survive alone. Then something unusual caught his eye. In the distance lay an enormous crystal-clear lake nestled within the breathtaking landscape. Walking to the shore, he admired the perfectly clear water and felt relieved that the area showed no signs of danger. The system suddenly displayed an incredibly detailed scientific report about every species living in the lake. Overwhelmed by the technical jargon, Lion asked for a simpler explanation. The system summarized that the lake contained countless edible fish of various levels, along with one exceptionally rare species. An achievement notification immediately appeared, announcing that fishing privileges had been unlocked for the labyrinth's new master. Lion quickly realized he had no fishing gear, but then remembered the system's item shop. He purchased a complete fishing kit, cast his line into the calm water, and settled into a chair. As the float drifted across the peaceful lake, he quietly hummed, enjoying the relaxing atmosphere. After some time, he caught several ordinary carp. The steady supply of fish reassured him that he wouldn't have to survive by eating his own bait during the month-long isolation. Comfortably settled beside the lake, Lion finally relaxed. At least he no longer had to worry about starving. Without warning, his peaceful moment ended, as the fishing float was violently pulled beneath the surface. Gripping the rod tightly, Lion immediately realized the creature on the other end possessed unbelievable strength. The line stretched to its limit as the enormous fish fought desperately to escape. Knowing he could lose such a remarkable catch, Lion stayed patient. Instead of forcing it, he carefully maintained his balance and slowly wore the powerful creature down. At last, with one tremendous pull, he dragged it onto the shore. A gigantic purple fish burst from the water before crashing onto the ground. The system immediately congratulated Lion. Against all odds, he had successfully caught a legendary carp. Lion held the thrashing fish and stood amazed by the incredible energy benefits that the special meat offered. Felt extremely excited by the experience and fully understood why so many people loved fishing. The system informed him that he had understood the true spirit of fishing and had awakened a new talent. Apprentice Fisherman Level 1. Excited by the achievement, he stored the fish for dinner, knowing that its nutritious meat was perfect for strengthening his current fragile body. Lion looked around and decided that his first priority was organizing a proper place to cook. He opened the shop and purchased a folding table, pots, condiments, knives, and every piece of equipment needed for his kitchen. He arranged the camp with all the newly bought items, and also decided to bring out his alchemy equipment. As he opened his virtual inventory, he noticed a small, glowing black stone that he did not remember placing inside. Lion soon realized that he had received a magical flint as a free bonus, an item specially designed to light campfires with ease. He struck the magical flint once, creating an intense flame that instantly lit the campfire. Under the evening sky, he admired the warm fire and felt an overwhelming sense of comfort in the beautiful surroundings. Lion rolled up his sleeves and stood before the table, ready to clean the freshly caught carp. He carefully began cutting the fish, believing that a rustic roast would be the perfect meal to enjoy in the open air. As he removed the entrails, the system informed him that the carp's entrails were valuable alchemy ingredients. Lion smiled after reading the information, realizing that the fish entrails could be used to create potions inside his cauldron. Without wasting any time, he placed the nutritious entrails directly into his small alchemy cauldron. As soon as the ingredients entered the pot, it began boiling on its own, leaving him fascinated by the convenience of the system. He then placed pieces of fish onto wooden skewers, believing that food always became more delicious when cooked this way. Lion positioned the fish with the heads pointing downward so the excess oil could drain away during roasting. He knew this method would leave the outside wonderfully crispy, while keeping the inside incredibly soft and tender. After arranging every skewer neatly around the large campfire, Lion celebrated completing the preparation of the meal. While the fish slowly roasted, he looked around and decided to use the spare time to organize his sleeping area. He cleaned the ground by removing stones from the path, finding the manual labor slightly troublesome. Afterward, he set up a tent and reflected that the extra effort was worthwhile because it created the perfect romantic camping atmosphere. Once everything was finished, he admired his temporary home beneath the beautiful star-filled sky and felt deeply satisfied with the result. As time passed, the delicious aroma of the roasting fish spread through the air, allowing Lion to realize that it had reached the perfect level of doneness. With his mouth watering, he carefully removed the beautifully golden fish from the skewer, eager to enjoy his first bite. Just before eating, a description screen appeared and explained that consuming the special labyrinth carp would completely satisfy his hunger, while also granting additional benefits. Another warning informed him that the food could not be taken outside, meaning it had to be eaten entirely within the labyrinth. Without hesitation, Lion took a large bite of the roasted fish and immediately let out a quiet whisper of pure satisfaction. He adored the crispy skin and was pleasantly surprised to discover that the meat inside was incredibly soft and juicy. The spectacular smoky aroma made the meal even more delicious and stimulated his appetite further. The flavor of the roasted labyrinth carp was so extraordinary that Lion became deeply emotional. Tears of joy formed in his eyes as he savored every bite. While enjoying the meal, he imagined how perfect the fish would taste served over a warm bowl of freshly cooked rice. He continued eating with complete satisfaction and was delighted to discover that the giant carp contained no small bones to interrupt the meal. The incredible taste impressed him so much that he wished he could share such an unforgettable dish with someone else. As he finished enjoying the fish, a glowing system notification suddenly appeared before him. The message announced that consuming the labyrinth carp had permanently increased his maximum mana capacity. Right before his eyes, his magical circle visibly expanded, confirming the effect. Lion stood frozen in complete disbelief as he realized that his magical energy reserves had grown simply because he had eaten a meal. The unexpected discovery left him utterly shocked. After calming himself, Lion immediately understood how valuable this secret truly was. He realized that if the mages outside the labyrinth ever learned about the fish's extraordinary ability, they would drain the entire lake in search of every single labyrinth carp. Wanting to protect the rare resource, he decided to preserve several fish instead of eating them all. Thinking affectionately of Rixel, he resolved to bring a number of the special labyrinth carp back to his younger brother, so they could benefit from the incredible discovery together. With that decision made, Lion turned his attention toward the alchemy cauldron. Curious about the boiling mixture he had prepared earlier, he carefully examined its contents. From inside the cauldron, he retrieved a glowing pearl known as the essence of the labyrinth carp. According to the system, the mysterious pearl possessed the remarkable ability to increase mana recovery. The blonde stared at the glowing pearl in complete amazement. After inspecting its information, he discovered that it was classified as an expert-level item. Its exceptional rarity convinced him that its effects had to be incredibly powerful. He admired the magical jewel resting in the palm of his hand, while a broad and ambitious smile slowly spread across his face, as countless future possibilities filled his mind. Even so, he resisted the urge to experiment immediately. Instead, he carefully stored the precious artifact inside his inventory, deciding that it would be wiser to analyze it later with a calmer and more focused mind. Soon afterward, Lion remembered the many wild herbs he had gathered throughout the forest over the past several days. His inventory now contained a large collection of useful ingredients waiting to be processed. He also noticed that nearly every plant inside the labyrinth overflowed with rich mana, making the area a treasure trove of valuable materials. Since nobody else was present, nothing could interrupt his gathering efforts or compete for the abundant resources surrounding him. A victorious smile appeared across Lion's face as he reached an exciting conclusion. Technically speaking, the mysterious labyrinth had become the perfect place for him. It had transformed into his own exclusive territory where he could train, gather resources, gain experience, and evolve at an astonishing speed without interference. Filled with excitement and growing confidence, he rubbed his hands together eagerly, while looking forward to collecting and making use of every valuable resource the labyrinth had to offer. Even with all those opportunities waiting for him, Lion decided that one task deserved his full attention first. Before beginning his large-scale harvest, he returned to his meal and happily finished eating the rest of the delicious roasted fish. Several peaceful days passed as Lion continued living alone inside the labyrinth. During that time, he settled into his isolated routine, constantly gathering supplies and improving his campsite. One day, he celebrated after catching 3 giant lobsters from the lake. Holding up the fishing net with a wide smile, he admired his impressive catch and even wondered if he had somehow become unusually lucky with his daily fishing. He carefully stored the giant lobsters inside his inventory for later use. Already planning ahead, he decided to make a rich soup using the special flour that remained safely inside his bag. Walking barefoot across the soft grass around his campsite, Lion realized he had grown surprisingly comfortable with the peaceful camping lifestyle. What had once felt unfamiliar had gradually become second nature. After finishing his fishing, Lion collected every trap he had placed around the lake before checking the plants growing near his campsite. Examining each leaf and stem, he happily confirmed that the exotic sweet potatoes were healthy and growing at an impressive rate. Satisfied with his small garden, he spent the rest of the day exploring the forest again. The expedition proved highly successful as he gathered valuable spices, flavorful mushrooms, and several rare flowers. Every new ingredient was identified, analyzed, and cataloged by the system, making his collection even more valuable. While gathering a patch of beautiful golden daisies, Lion couldn't help admiring their bright blossoms, which stood out vividly against the surrounding greenery. Impressed by their beauty, he even considered transplanting some to decorate his campsite. As he continued reading the system's information, one detail immediately caught his attention. Lion's eyes widened in shock when he discovered that each seemingly ordinary golden daisy could be sold for 300 coins. His surprise quickly turned into excitement as he realized the labyrinth's natural resources were worth a fortune. At that moment, he understood that simply selling its flowers could make him incredibly wealthy. Lion noticed something his system claimed had never happened before. A new message appeared, indicating that the Shilling shop also functioned as a trading stall where items could be sold immediately. The system displayed the labyrinth chrysanthemum flower, with an offered price of 250 shillings, excluding the sales commission. Lion was surprised because the flower had been worth 300 shillings just moments earlier. He realized the price had dropped. The system explained that the item's value was calculated in real time. It categorized the flower as a low-grade ornamental flower and showed that Lion's sales persuasion ability was 0%. Lion understood how the pricing system worked. He concluded that, for now, he could only sell one-star items. He also realized that every item description needed enough information to justify its value. He figured that receiving a fair price required actively negotiating. He then added new information about the flower. He explained that drying the chrysanthemum and brewing it into floral tea made it very healthy. He also mentioned that it could serve as an alchemy material and that anyone could prepare it easily, making it even more valuable than the current price suggested. The system acknowledged that the explanation made sense and recalculated the item's value. The offered price increased to 280 shillings, although the sales commission still applied. Lion complained that the price had only increased slightly, despite providing valuable information, and he was still being charged a commission. The system informed him that the commission was mandatory under the shilling shop's rules. Lion accepted that there was little room to argue if it was part of the rules. The system then revealed that the shilling shop always listened to customer opinions. Because of the newly provided information, it proposed reducing the commission while increasing the offered price to 300 shillings. Lion realized the system was more flexible than he had expected. He concluded that convincing it with better knowledge could increase an item's selling price. He also understood that lacking knowledge reduced an item's value, but learning more would always allow him to negotiate better prices in the future. He became determined to sell every item for the highest possible value. He accepted the proposal. The system completed the transaction, sold the labyrinth chrysanthemum flower for 300 shillings, removed the item from his inventory, and immediately transferred the payment. Lion was pleased with the instant payment and asked whether processed items could also be sold. The system confirmed that processed items could be sold. However, there were currently no saleable processed items in his inventory. It also explained that opened, counterfeit, or defective items could never be sold. Lion understood that any processed item would need to be freshly made and properly prepared before selling. Feeling satisfied, he considered the day extremely productive, since he had already gathered ingredients from the forest. He decided it was finally time to prepare a meal. As he prepared to cook, the system identified spicy seeds from the labyrinth. It explained that the seeds had an intense spicy aroma, and that chewing them whole without knowing their properties could make someone cry because of their overwhelming flavor. It also provided a recipe. Lion immediately recognized the seeds as peppercorns and became excited by the discovery. He began cooking step by step. First, he placed the pulp and seeds of the spicy fruit into boiling water. Next, he added the cleaned crayfish heads and legs to create a rich broth. He mixed flour with water until it formed dough with the proper consistency. He repeatedly slapped the dough against the board to improve its elasticity before allowing it to rest. While the dough rested, he prepared the tender mushrooms and let them boil thoroughly. He then added the crayfish meat to the pot. The broth gradually transformed into an incredible-looking seafood soup filled with a wonderful aroma. Once the broth had fully concentrated its flavor, he tore the rested dough into thin pieces and dropped them into the soup. Finally, he added a generous amount of labyrinth chrysanthemum and allowed everything to simmer a little longer. The meal was complete. The system identified the finished dish as seafood soup from the labyrinth. It praised the perfectly infused seafood flavor that created a smooth and deep broth. It noted that the spicy fruits and spicy seeds had elevated the dish's overall quality. It also praised Lion's extraordinary cooking skill, explaining that achieving such a rich flavor with so few ingredients was remarkable. A recipe was also made available. Lion decided to taste the broth first. The rich, piping hot broth instantly removed every trace of greasiness. He then sampled the soup itself. The thick and thin pieces of dough created different textures that blended together perfectly. The mushrooms and chrysanthemum provided a pleasant contrast while chewing. Their aromatic juices mixed with the broth and added another layer of deep umami flavor. The familiar combination of flavors was incredibly addictive. He then tasted the crayfish. The meat had a firm, elastic texture similar to lobster. It was naturally sweet while carrying the rich flavor commonly associated with blue crab. Lion immediately understood that the crayfish was the true reason the broth tasted so incredible. He continued enjoying the meal by alternating bites of crayfish and sajabi. Whenever his throat became dry, he took a sip of the flavorful broth. Whenever the richness became too heavy, he refreshed his palate with chrysanthemum. The combination was so balanced that it felt like he could eat forever. After finishing the entire meal, his toned stomach expanded into a full family-sized belly. Although the food was delicious, it also gave him an enormous sugar rush. Unable to fall asleep, Lion decided to gather wood before sunset. He soon found a tree that looked suitable. The system identified it as a tree with very few leaves and branches. Although it was small, its wood was soft, pleasantly fragrant, and naturally waterproof. It also explained that the wood had many crafting applications under the carpentry category and displayed the available recipes. Lion decided to craft tools and planned to sell any high-quality creations through the shilling shop. Having saved enough shillings, he finally purchased the beginner's basic woodworking kit. The system described it as a complete beginner's set prepared by a master carpenter. While it contained no extraordinary tools, it included every essential item from an axe to a chisel. The kit cost 50,000 shillings. Following the woodworking instructions, Lion cut a V-shaped notch into the side where the tree would fall. Using the axe, he chopped down the tree. The system rewarded him with 55 small labyrinth tree wood, 55 medium labyrinth tree wood, and 55 large labyrinth tree wood. Lion was amazed that such a small tree produced so many materials. He planned to finish cutting the remaining wood with a saw and carry everything back. While exploring nearby bushes, he unexpectedly discovered a cabin hidden within the labyrinth. He was shocked to find such an ordinary-looking cabin in a place like this. Inside, he found only a few pieces of furniture and a bed. The system informed him that, thanks to the authority of the library master of the labyrinth, he now had permission to use the cabin. Lion was delighted. The system declared that everything inside the cabin now belonged to him. Lion realized that living there would be far better than sleeping outdoors for an entire month. He then considered relocating the cabin to his own base camp. The system confirmed that moving the cabin was possible. Lion became even happier because living inside the maze would become much easier with a proper house. The system asked whether he wanted to move the cabin immediately. Lion decided to wait. He returned to his garden and realized that, with a proper house already available, he only needed to craft the tools he would use there. Before moving the cabin, he first prepared a suitable area at his base camp. Once everything was ready, he instructed the system to install the cabin there. The system warned that the installation would take some time and would create a loud, thunderous disturbance. Before Lion could fully understand how the cabin would be moved, it descended from the sky and settled perfectly into place. Lion stood there in complete shock. The system announced that the cabin installation had been successfully completed. Lion stared in disbelief at the floating house. He had never imagined he could move an entire house by making it fly, and the experience genuinely frightened him. Soon he smiled. After spending 1 week living inside the maze, he had finally managed to get a house of his own. He looked around the completed cabin with satisfaction. Everything had been organized while it was still broad daylight. That meant he would even have enough time to craft the basic necessities before nightfall. He immediately started making wooden bowls and wooden toothpicks. The system notified him that he had created ugly toothpicks. They were made so poorly that they were difficult to use and would be more useful as firewood. The system also displayed ugly wooden bowl. It looked terrible, although at least it did not leak. The system repeatedly emphasized just how ugly it was. Lion felt embarrassed by the constant criticism. Even so, he accepted that no one became an expert on the first attempt and decided to move forward. He continued crafting wooden bowls, glasses, chopsticks, and other wooden items. The system announced that his creativity in quickly crafting different kinds of items had awakened a new talent. He unlocked the carpentry talent. A congratulatory message appeared. His carpentry talent reached apprentice level 1. Lion happily realized that this would be more than enough to help him survive while living inside the maze. The system then informed him that items with a 1-star rating or higher could now be sold. It explained that regardless of usefulness, Shillings' shop would purchase anything that at least looked attractive. Lion wondered whether it would also buy the item he was about to make. He crafted a labyrinth wooden flower pot. The system described it as a flower pot made from labyrinth wood. It had been crafted with great precision, although it questioned whether it could truly be used as a flower pot. Its estimated selling price started from 1,000 shilling. Lion eagerly decided to test his negotiation skills by selling it. The system displayed a selling window. It asked whether he wanted to sell the labyrinth wooden flower pot star. The initial offer was 800 shilling, excluding commission. Lion was shocked by the low offer. He insisted that the flower pot looked beautiful and was extremely well made. The system acknowledged that it was well crafted, but explained that it had no special value and belonged to the lowest 1-star rank. The offered price was reduced further to 650 shilling, excluding commission. Lion protested even more strongly. He explained that the flower pot was not made from ordinary wood. It had been crafted from labyrinth wood, a rare material that only grew inside the maze. He argued that its rarity alone should greatly increase its value. He continued by highlighting labyrinth wood's greatest advantage. The wood was completely waterproof. Its strength also gave it exceptional durability. He emphasized that the flower pot was both beautiful and highly practical. He declared it to be a product of the highest quality that could practically sell itself. The system began recalculating the price. It announced that the price had been adjusted according to the new conditions. The offer increased to 1,500 shilling. Lion smiled with satisfaction because the new offer exceeded even his own expectations. He immediately accepted the deal. The system confirmed that the item had been sold for 1,500 shilling. The flower pot disappeared, and he received 1,500 shilling. Lion then asked whether he could keep selling the same item repeatedly. The system confirmed that it was possible. However, it warned that if supply exceeded demand, the selling price would gradually decrease. Lion concluded that producing different kinds of items would ultimately be more profitable. Since he would naturally craft many useful items anyway, he would also continue gaining valuable experience. He became convinced that, at this pace, reaching the expert rank would only be a matter of time. 3 weeks passed as Lion continued improving his many production skills. During one fishing session, he caught a white snow trout of the labyrinth. The system explained that this rare trout lived only inside the labyrinth. Its body resembled freshly fallen snow, while its eyes shone like moonstones. The fish could possess considerable value. The system then announced that Lion had completed the achievement for catching 10 different types of high-quality fish. He obtained the achievement path of the Master Fisherman. He also received 3,000 shilling. His fishing mastery increased to Apprentice Level 3. A congratulatory message appeared. The system also warned that his fishing rod had exceeded 95% durability usage and required repairs. Lion sighed with relief because he had caught the fish with only 5% durability remaining on the rod. He happily declared that all of his preparations were finally complete. He knew there was one essential requirement for advancing from apprentice to expert. Besides the talent destined to become expert, at least 5 talents needed to reach Apprentice Level 3. The system displayed his current talent levels. Potion making had reached Apprentice Level 9. Fishing had reached Apprentice Level 3. Gathering had reached Apprentice Level 7. Cooking had reached Apprentice Level 6. Sewing had reached Apprentice Level 4. Woodworking had reached Apprentice Level 3. Lion realized that leveling up fishing had fulfilled the final requirement. Even so, he admitted that raising production talents demanded an enormous amount of work. As he processed the trout, a crystal suddenly fell out of the fish. Lion was surprised by the unexpected discovery. The system identified the item as a labyrinth troutfish eye. Although obtained from a fish, it was considered a genuine gemstone. Its greatest characteristic was its extremely high magical conductivity, despite not being a magical stone. The recipe related to it required expert level 1 to unlock. Its selling price was 10,000 shilling. Lion was shocked by its incredible value. Although he wanted to sell it immediately, he hesitated. He realized that unlocking its recipe required the same expert rank needed for fish essence. The system confirmed that he had to reach expert level 1 before viewing the recipe. Lion felt certain that this was an item he would need later. He decided not to sell it. He believed the recipe would become available very soon. Just then, the system notified him that he had obtained labyrinth trout essence. His potion-making specialization talent had reached its limit. A congratulatory message appeared. Thanks to his exceptional talent and relentless effort, he had achieved remarkable growth in an incredibly short time. His potion-making specialization evolved into alchemy specialization. His alchemy level immediately advanced to expert level 1. The system announced that many new recipes had been unlocked. Lion was amazed by the overwhelming number of recipes. He immediately noticed that this level up felt completely different from the previous ones. Instead of reading them, the knowledge flowed directly into his mind. Many of the new recipes had nothing to do with ordinary potions. Some even involved techniques for reflecting curses. He became even more excited about leveling up. The system announced that the transmission of new recipes had ended. Lion was surprised that the process was already over. He realized that apprentice rank only granted potion knowledge. Expert rank, however, provided knowledge covering alchemy as a whole. Satisfied, he decided to review the recipes. He also wanted to discover what fish essence could actually be used for. He searched for fish essence. The system displayed its description. Fish essence had to be swallowed whole. It produced an extremely strong, fishy odor that could be unpleasant for sensitive people. It belonged to the alchemy category. Lion realized that it could be consumed without any processing. He also checked whether any recipes used it. The system confirmed that there were recipes that had not yet been unlocked. The required materials included 5 special fish essences and 2 fish eyes. The system informed him that he currently lacked 1 fish eye. It also warned that the manufacturing success rate would be very low. Lion felt relieved that he had not sold the fish eye earlier. He then realized something even more alarming. The recipe required 5 fish essences. The fish eye he had just obtained was the only one he possessed. That meant he only had a single opportunity. Although nervous because he lacked sufficient materials, he also felt excitement building inside him. To him, alchemy was by far the most enjoyable profession. The thrill of fishing and the satisfaction of working hard were both incredible experiences. However, nothing surpassed the excitement that exploded whenever a special result appeared. Lion laughed confidently. He believed that worrying about failure was something only beginners did. To him, the lower the success rate, the greater the satisfaction after succeeding. As the mixture boiled inside the bowl, the reaction suddenly became unusually violent. Lion immediately realized that something was different. The system informed him that he had gained heat resistance thanks to the blessing of the spirit of fire. He tightly held the lid in place. He knew that if the lid accidentally opened, the entire process would fail. Since he only had one chance, failure was not an option. After enduring the intense reaction, the crafting process finally succeeded. The system announced the creation of an alchemist's fish pill. 2 stars. It described it as a pill first created by a master alchemist that possessed considerable value. When consumed, it permanently increased a certain amount of mana. It smelled like shrimp, but chewing it released an unpleasant fishy odor. It therefore had to be swallowed whole. Its selling price was 15,000 shilling. The item belonged to the fish category. The recipe could also be viewed. Lion looked at the completed fish pill. Despite the dramatic crafting process, he felt slightly disappointed by its 2-star rank. Still, considering the low-quality materials he had used, he accepted that simply avoiding failure was already a good result. He then wondered what purpose the item actually served. The system revealed that a certain fish would be attracted to it. Lion suddenly understood its true use. The alchemist's fish pill could actually be used as fish bait. With that realization, he attached the fish pill to his fishing hook and began fishing once again.